Policy Committee meetings open. And first of all, in the event of an emergency, the building may be evacuated. You will be required to vacate the building by the rear entrance and gather at the breezeway between the library and the art gallery buildings. This is Council's designated emergency muster point. Under no circumstances is anyone permitted to re-enter the building until the all clear has been given and the area deemed safe by authorised personnel. In the event of an evacuation, a member of council staff will assist any member of the public with disability to vacate the building. All councillors and staff are required to speak into the microphone. You may need to move your microphone closer to you to ensure you are heard and recorded on the live streaming. Your microphone will glow red when it is picking you up. Just ask the Chief Executive Officer to read out any apologies.
Councillor Whitten, it's an apology.
Councillor Whitten, someone move that, please.
I'll move it.
Councillor Munro, seconded Councillor Hamling, I think it was. All in favour? Against, thank you. This council meeting is being live streamed and recorded. By speaking at the council meeting, you agree to be live streamed and recorded. Please ensure that if and when you speak at this council meeting that you ensure you're respectful to others and use appropriate language at all times. The City Council accepts no liability for any defamatory or offensive remarks or gestures made during the course of this council meeting. A recording will be made for administrative purposes. I would like to acknowledge the Wiradjuri people who are the traditional custodians of the land. I would also like to pay respect to the elders both past and present of the Wiradjuri nation and extend that respect to other Aboriginal Australians who may be present. Does any councillor wish to declare any conflicts of interest in any matter for consideration at this council meeting? No, I'll just remind you, when the various chairs go up, you won't have to ask for declarations then if there's none from here, okay?
I'll just ask. I don't think I've got any conflict at all. On the here we got a new subdivision here. I have had talks and discussions since 2012 with this developer, Bob Healy, regards to trying to get some sort of business there as far as the old abattoir and all that sort of thing.
Yeah, look, I
don't think I've got...
all I can do is give you advice. I think it's in your best interest to declare.
For me, I think it's probably best I stand out.
I think so, yeah. Yeah, we'll record that Councillor Munro has declared an interest, and when it comes up, we'll remind you.
Yep.
Councillor Munro, thank you. There is a late item there, and that is late item Sport and Recreational Policy Committee. Will someone move that that's included? Thanks, Councillor Henry. Second, Councillor Nugent. All in favour? We could do it there if you like. Yeah, if you wish, yeah.
Moments, yes.
That's okay. Fine, thanks for that. And there's an ordinary closed meeting late item, 6.4, tender AU. Thank you. Councillor Hamling, seconder. Councillor Nugent, all in favour? Yes, thanks. Just under Merrill minutes, we have a presentation now from the New South Wales Audit Office on annual financial statements, and I'd like to introduce Mr. Geroid Fitzgerald, who will be making the presentation. Thanks. I don't think you want to be introduced to all the councillors, do you? But we've got Councillor Turner, Councillor Miletto, Councillor Munro, Councillor Prevatera, Councillor Romano, Councillor Hamling, Councillor Duffy, Councillor McRae and Councillor Nugent. I myself, Reg Kidd. Hi.
Good evening, Mayor, councillors, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Geroid Fitzgerald. I'm an audit leader in the Audit Office of New South Wales.
I'll you'll have the copy of the presentation. And if you haven't got one, yell out. Thank you.
I'd like to just thank you for giving me the opportunity of presenting our report on the conduct of the audit. It's our third audit of this council. But before going into the specifics for 2018-19, I just wanted to just provide some updates on our sector report and also just some performance audit reports, if I may, and then I'll only spend a few minutes on that. So the intention of those reports is really to ensure greater consistency and confidence in council data, also to improve governance and accountability across the sector. Thirdly, just a better benchmark in the local government sector as well. So I guess what is an audit? So our role is to provide independent assurance on the financial statements that are prepared by management and endorsed by council. Also, we report our findings to management council here and also eventually to Parliament through our sector report in March. So our sector report for the 2017-18 financial statements was tabled in February of this year. So that report consolidates the results of 128 councils and 12 county councils. That was a very, very challenging report, but well worth it in the end. It provided quite a lot of insights across the sector in the areas just listed there. So financial reporting, performance and sustainability, internal controls and governance, and asset management and information technology. We also provided a data visualization tool that supplemented or supported that report. This year, the OLG, or Office of Local Government, are actually, they've set up a website called Your Council, so that allows ratepayers, basically any member of the public, to go into that website and look at councils and how they perform against other councils. So as a result of that, our office won't be maintaining that data visualization tool. It'll just be duplicating what the Office of Local Government are going to do, or ours.
There.
Yeah.
You said 128 councils.
Sorry, it's 127.
127 councils and 12 county councils.
Yeah.
Why did they choose? That would only leave about, 16 or so councils that weren't part of it.
I think there's amalgamated councils, and also 127 was the number. I know it's.
Is that every council across the state?
Yeah, all councils.
Okay, thanks.
So we're going to be producing a sector report also for the 2018-19 financial statements. It'll focus on a lot of similar things to last year, but we've also gathered information on a number of new topics as well that we believe will be very helpful to the sector. So we're going to be looking at, like I said, the last four, I think, are the ones that are probably of more interest to council. So cybersecurity, I know, is raised quite a lot in ARIC meetings that I've attended and forums that we've been at. And the bottom three ones, preparedness for new accounting standards, asset management or infrastructure, property, plant and equipment management, and IT general computer controls. But there'll also be, we've sent out questionnaires for the first three topics as well. So in that report, there should be insights across the whole sector as well. Just performance audits. So in 2018-19, we issued 3 performance audits. They didn't go across the whole sector. They actually just looked at a couple of councils for each of those reports. We looked at workforce reform, domestic waste management, and development assessments. So those reports are available on our website for anybody to access. And we also update the Audit Risk and Improvement Committee as we go along as well when those reports are tabled. The reports going forward will target some councils as well, but it'll be a mix of sector and just specific councils. But usually they're still worth reading by other councils as they provide. Our Auditor General actually issued an annual work programme in August of this year. So that program is meant to provide information to the public and councils and the state as well as to how we select our particular reports and the areas that we're going to focus on. And secondly, it outlines over the next couple of years what areas we are targeting and looking at. That annual work program covers all sectors that we're involved in, but relevant to council, it actually looks at credit card management in the coming year, developer contributions and voluntary planning agreements, and the management of procurement. And those have specific councils as auditees. Orange City Council wasn't selected for those, but I believe that each of those reports would have some relevance to council when they're issued. And I know that we're in the middle of those currently. And then we've set out the next year as well. So there are three. So we're looking at audit, risk and improvement committees and how well they're supported by council. We're also looking at, again, cybersecurity. We know that there's a lot of interest in that area, and there's obviously a lot of risk potentially to local government councils. And we're looking at rural water supply and sewage, just the fees and charges aspect of that. But if you look at our website, you'll get a little bit more information what the potential scope for those reports are. We're also looking for feedback from councils and just the general public as to what potential topics we could cover in the future as well. So you can either go to your audit team or go directly to the website. There's a page there for any suggestions that anybody would have. There's also a couple of reports that will be where the Department of Planning, Industry and Environment, they're the auditee, but they may have relevance to council as well. So the two reports that we're looking at conducting there is waste levy and planning for waste infrastructure, and also the government's response to flammable cladding risk. I guess onto the report on the conduct of the audit. So, as you know, we've completed our audit of the Council's 2018-19 financial statements. So I'm pleased to inform the Council today that we've issued a clean audit opinion. A clean audit opinion basically means that the financial statements present fairly the financial performance and position of the Council, and also that the Council materially complies with accounting standards and the Office of Local Government Requirements and Local Government Act. So it's a pretty good result for council. And I guess it's appropriate for me to take this opportunity to thank council, but obviously the finance team as well. Jason and did a really good job. And also the Office of Local Government just sets out what needs to be covered in the report on the conduct of the audit. So I'll just quickly take you through that. But on note 24A of the financial statements, there's 6 key performance ratios. So they're defined by the Office of Local Government, and the council has met all of those ratios this year. But the income statement, we're just focusing on just some of the bigger items in there. At a fairly high level. So the rates and annual charges has increased by 1.7 million on last year, so that's about 4%. The main reason for that was the 2.3% rate peg increase. Also, there was some increase as a result of annual charges revenue. The grants and contributions revenues remained fairly stable on last year, so it's only a 0.6% increase or $2.2 million. And the council's operating result has declined by $4.2 million. While there was an increase in revenue just mentioned there was also a reduction in non-domestic waste services revenue, which accounted for a lot of that. And also there was an increase in employee numbers as well, which contributed directly to an increase in employee expenses. And the net operating result before capital grants and contributions reduced as well for broadly similar. Cash and investments. So council has $164 million in cash. So that's 20 million increase on last year. So that basically means that council has sufficient cash to meet its obligations, which is a good position. And also it has $15.3 million in unrestricted funds. And the overall cash results is contributed to 3 of the 6 ratios that I mentioned earlier. So it's actually shown improvement or contributed to improving the unrestricted cover ratio, the debt service current ratio, and the cash expense cover ratio. And the operating result, just the consolidated operating result by fund. So each of the three main funds, so the general fund, the water fund, and the sewer fund also contributed positively to that result. So the general fund contributed about $24 million, the water fund 4.5, and the sewer fund $4.1 million of that overall total. And similarly for the before capital grants, the three funds also contributed positively to that result. Audit opinion, as mentioned earlier, we've issued an unqualified audit report for the general purpose financial statements, but we've also issued one for the special purpose financial statements, which cover the four declared business activities, so water, sewer, caravan, and childcare disclosed separately in the special purpose financial statements. So yeah, we've issued an unqualified audit opinion on that as well, which is a good result for council. All reporting and disclosure obligations were also satisfied, and this year was without having to go to the Office of Local Government for an extension, which happened last year. So I know a lot of councils did have to do that. So again, for me, that's really, really good and a positive move. So again, thanks to council staff for their assistance throughout the audit and for this particular result here. So thank you. So thank you for your attention. Are any questions? I'll happily best to answer.
One question, you said
Yep.
we can comply with all our requirements and because of our financial situation. Are there many councils ever found not to?
Their financial situation.
Well, there's 127, we can cover all our debts, we can cover all our loans, and we're in a good position. Are there any councils that you ever audit that are not in that position?
I haven't personally. I can't answer. But you can look at the table.
No, the ratios will go up and down depending on how you use them. Your cost-debt ratio and ratios like that will fluctuate depending on, when you take a loan out and how long you're into a loan.
Our debt service ratio, what was that again? Sorry? There's no percentage, is there? That used to be the big magical number that got thrown around, where we were and all that sort of thing, and it's not in the report. I can't see a percentage number in the...
So the debt service cover ratio was, I don't have the exact number, it was between 6 and 7. So it was just under 7 times.
And was the...
Sorry, yeah, the debt service cover ratio, just for the OLGs, has 2 as the benchmark, so the council is well in it.
Unreal. Great news.
Saying that, we've got a great opportunity to borrow against that sort of numbers to works that we might want.
I would imagine that's a question for management.
That sounds great. So,
Any other questions?
Who we want to be?
Councillor Duffy.
On Mid-Coast Council.
As an office, we would, yes, but not me.
Just interesting to see that when you talk about the debt service ratio, like they received a hell of a lot of money from T Corp and those at 1% and all that type of stuff there. Say wiped a massive amount of their backlog back of the 4 councils. And I thought, maybe the same thing could happen here soon.
I think when the Office of Local Government, they have their Your Council website up now. They're just up to, I think, the 2017-18 financial statements, but once all councils' financial statements have been submitted, because there's still some outstanding, then I imagine they'll update that website and you'll be able to go in there and pretty easily be able to come up with comparison with other councils and how well this council is doing compared to those in whatever ratio. And my understanding is that they're going to continue to develop that as well and have more.
Actually, just on that might be one night if council's interested, we might get one of our techno experts to take us through this Your Council website so we can share a few councils. I would.
It's mainly aimed for the ratepayers, so I think it'll be fairly easy.
Yeah, no, it's interesting. As members of the public certainly go to your council website. I was reading an article in the paper a couple of weeks ago about it and the amount of hits or whatever they call it that have gone to that actual website. Any other questions?
Just one quick one. Are you going to be involved in the audit by the Office of Local Government into the merged councils that they're looking at, or the merged councils?
Going to be, sorry.
Are you going to be involved in the audit of the merged councils?
I'm not directly involved in a merged council. My council.
I think it shows you on there, one of the amalgamated councils is one of the ones that they're looking at. I don't know what one it is. All right, well, thank you very much, Gerald, and
thank you
very much for your time. Can I especially thank Jason, which is very difficult being a Bulldogs man, Jason and his staff, all of them, sincerely from all the councillors, for a job well done. I mean, I know it's a huge job. There's a lot involved with it. I'm sure Councillor McRae agree with me. We see when we go to our risk and audit committee meetings when questions fly and with our independent people on there. So if you can pass on to all your staff, everyone concerned, our congratulations for a job well done, and we'll expect it again next year. Well done. Very much. Now, Gerald, you're quite welcome to stay for the next 4 hours if you wish. But probably you might be able to find a nice restaurant and have tea. Yeah, thank you. Now, the council meeting adjourns for the conduct of the open forum. We've got 3 speakers tonight. The first one being Cyril Smith, 4.3 dams for water storage attachment and 4.5 over car park fees. Cyril.
Thank you, councillors, for the opportunity to speak to you tonight. I was hopefully looking forward to having the screens up and working to show us the agenda for tonight. Is that possible, or?
No.
Okay, hopefully it is in the future.
Folders there, haven't we?
There's a spare folder, a couple of spare
everywhere.
folders there.
It's fine. No, a lot of other councils that I attend, they have the agenda on the screens so that we can follow it in the public gallery. Okay, 4.3, storage dams. A proposed storage dam at Dixon's Long Point may sound good, but it doesn't make a great deal of sense when we have Burrendong Dam just a few kilometres downstream of it. It probably would make more sense if council were to consider approaching the state in changing the allocation of water in the dams like Burrendong so that the lower section of storage is allocated to, say, 5 years of storage for urban and domestic and stock sort of purpose. I think this is the case with Windermere Dam at present, and so it may be worthwhile. Next one, just a note in the Infrastructure Policy Committee notes, points out that the quantity of water obtained by the stormwater harvesting system in your notes tonight appears to be 15 times the amount obtained by the Macquarie pipeline. And so it does show the importance of the stormwater harvesting. And I must congratulate Council on obtaining funds to extend that system. And just another point there on the storage dams. I must congratulate Council on obtaining funds to deliver a pipeline between Spring Creek Dam and Suma Park Dam to make Spring Creek Dam part of the active water storage of Orange in the future. 4.5, for car park. I think most ratepayers and residents would consider a bus trip from the Ophir car park to the central business district. And so I think it makes sort of little sense to waive the parking fees for that car park during the festive season. You'd probably think that even parking around Cook Park would be closer to the central business district than the parking area around the Ophir Tavern.
Sorry, yeah,
You've got the wrong Ophir.
the Ophir car park, which is just one block from the CBD. So I don't, if they got a bus, they'd be just getting in the door and out the other.
The old Ophir electricity.
It's nothing
Driving
new.
the
We've
bus,
done it for
Mr.
20
Mayor.
odd years.
My apologies, I'll take that back. Okay. Thank you for listening.
Thanks,
Thank you.
Cyril. Thank you very much. Our second speaker is Andrew Saunders, DA 185 to 191 Bing Street.
Mr Mayor, councillors, thanks for the opportunity to speak. I was hoping my client Samantha might have spoken first to get a better feel for the nature of the business, but yeah, feel free to listen to her words as well.
Are you nervous?
No.
Like to switch around? You're talking on the
No.
same DA if you wish.
Yeah, no, it's similar issues. Thanks, Mr Mayor. My first point relates to the nature of contributions plans generally. The intent or objective of contributions plans is to create a user pay system where funds are put away or directed toward a specific use. In this instance, while the land is situated on the fringe of the contributions area, you all know where we're talking about, it's behind TradeLink. Yep. There is no opportunity for public parking infrastructure or any works program for future parking in the vicinity. To this effect, there is little opportunity for the business to benefit from public parking located on the western side of the railway line. Council may have some intent for the old Williams site in Peasley Street as an overflow for CBD parking or activities in the North Court. This would not benefit the current fitness site being situated outside the CBD. I'd also like to make it clear that we appreciate the role of the staff to work within the DCP and contributions plan policy. Council staff have looked at the rates per square metre for gyms and acknowledge the difficulty in managing parking calculations for this use. The staff have looked at the business as needing 7 spaces to operate as a more practical approach to likely parking demand rather than rates per square metre. With respect, however, the report does not account for the times of operation with one-on-one sessions during business hours and 6 client classes proposed before 9 a.m. and after 4 p.m. when there is ample parking available. We have undertaken surveys of the site and identified that all other businesses in the 5-unit complex are all closed before 8 a.m. with 20 spaces available. This is similar in the afternoons, even though with the pick-up drop-off nature of the dance studio operating. It is also worth noting that the dance studio benefited from our council contribution moratorium period in 2017. We do, however, consider that the main focus of our request to waive the contribution is on the basis of ample parking being available during early and late periods when the business has 6-person classes. We've also recognised the availability of parking in Bing Street outside business hours. Councils have applied a similar approach to other small fitness businesses and restaurants that operate outside peak parking periods, including requesting that factors relating to ample parking supply on site, operating hours for classes outside business hours, and the limited contribution benefit as being significant factors. We therefore request that Council delete condition 4 of the DA approval. Thanks for your time.
Thanks, Mr. Saunders. Final speaker is Samantha McPaul. That's item 2.3, 185 to 191 Bing Street, DA. Thank you.
Thank you for giving me this opportunity to speak. So my name's Samantha McPaul. I'm a qualified personal trainer with the ambitious dream of opening my own fitness studio in my hometown, Orange. Finding the right site for this business has proved quite difficult. The price of commercial property in Orange is substantially higher than any surrounding towns. Therefore, finding something that sat within My business budget was my first challenge. I've also had the issue of finding a space that was sufficient in size, location, and parking. During my search, the proposed site was the only commercial building available that ticked all the boxes. And from looking at what is available now, it still is. I do appreciate that the council have looked at the seven spaces required less the previous use. However, I ask that the council look outside these parking rates and consider the underused and available parking around this site. During normal business hours, 9 to 4, I will be running one-on-one classes only. It will attract 2 spaces, which is less than the previous industrial use. Outside of these hours, I believe we have provided sufficient evidence, particularly in the mornings, that this parking is underused. In the afternoons, we have also proven that 20 spaces is more than enough for both the pick-up, drop-off routine of the dance studio and my small fitness classes. We have also proven how the parking in Byng Street is underutilised, especially before 9 a.m. and after 4 p.m, again during the time frame that these small classes will be held. I believe that my business would be a great attribute to improve the health of our local community, but unfortunately this parking contribution amount severely impacts my startup costs to where I may have to reconsider my plans. I understand that there needs to be rules and regulations, but in a challenging business climate, I believe it is important for our council to assist rather than resist new enterprises in our community. I really hope that you are able to take my circumstances into consideration and that I get the opportunity to have a positive impact in the health and fitness industry in Orange. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Samantha. The normal council meeting will now resume, and item 3.1 is confirmation of the minutes of the ordinary meeting of Orange City Council held on the 22nd of October. Moved Councillor Hamling, seconded Councillor Munro. All in favour? Yes, please. Thank you. The council meeting adjourns now for the conduct of the policy.
Mr Mayor, I've got a matter arising, if I might.
Aye.
Just in that previous meeting of the 19th of November, we had the report on councillor attendance, training and compliance. Now, in that there was, in part 5, the councillor code of conduct training, there were 2 councillors who still hadn't completed that. My question is whether those councillors have been able to complete it, and if so, fantastic. If not, what support is available for busy councillors to ensure that they're meeting those responsibilities?
Mayor, the training is still shown as incomplete. Training can be rearranged or one-on-one sessions can be held to go through the training.
Thank you. Council meeting adjourns now for the conduct of the policy committees, the first being Planning and Development Policy Committee. Councillor Turner.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Pleasure. I opened the Planning Development Committee meeting at about 25 to 8. We've got 700 and something pages to go through. I'm sure every councillor has read every page. And declarations of interest. We have Councillor Munro declared an interest on item 2.4. 1.1 will be the items under delegated authority.
Moved.
Seconded.
Been moved by Councillor Kidd and seconded by Councillor Duffy. Any business arising? No business arising. I'll put the vote. All those in favour? Unanimous. Item 2.2, development application DA 9145 Lily Pilly Place. Been moved by Councillor Hamling, seconded by... Oh, the other way around, Councillor Munro first and Councillor Hamling.
You can go first.
Right,
You
okay.
up first.
Councillor Nugent.
Thanks, Mr. Chair. Look, I just wanted to sort of note, I think this is a pretty good outcome. It came to us originally as sort of six units. There were concerns expressed by the neighbours. When we decided to send it back to the developer to have another look at, it's come back with a proposal for 4 lots or for 4 buildings on that site, and then there was still some issues or concerns by the neighbour next to one in relation to visual privacy, and there's some side. So I think overall it's a good outcome. I did have just one question of clarification, and maybe I'm reading this wrong. On page 15, that table at the bottom there, it talks about proposed lots, community lot 5, dwelling 6. That sorry, is that a typo? In that table, it talks about dwelling 1, 2, 3, and 4.
Dwelling 5.
Is that referring to?
Through you, Mr. Chair, I think that's an error there that's left over. Certainly only 4
definitely only
units
4.
on this allotment now. Yes,
Right,
the
yep.
developer has taken on board council's request last time and significantly changed his application.
And the community lots, will there be a separate community lot for the public area eventually? Is that the intention there? Talked about
Driveway.
it would be the driveway.
Each unit's got its own private open space.
Right. So that last line on the table is just a carryover from. Thank you.
Common space, yeah.
Councillor Nugent, I did note that I agree with your comments. I did have a note on the bottom of my page here. Good outcome. Yep. Councillor
He stole my
Hammond.
thunder. I was just about to say the same thing. It went back from 6 to 4, so that's negotiation from the developer with staff, and we've come out with a positive outcome. So fantastic result.
Okay. Any other comment? Councillor Munro.
I suppose, Mr. Chair, it's good to see a small developer having a bit of compromise. That's what we need more of in our these sort of developments. We listen to the public issues, put it back to the developer generally, and we have some compromises. When you don't have compromises, when you get disappointed.
Thank you. Any other comments? I'll put the application. All those in favour?
Right.
Councillor Taylor? Unanimous again. Move on to 2.3, 185 to 191 Bing Street.
Mr. Chairman, minus item or dot point 4, which is the waiving the contribution.
Second that.
Councillor Hamley. Yep. Minus
dot point 4, which is the contribution of
Contribution.
24,300.
Any other comment? You want to make a comment?
Yeah, just a comment. As Mr. Saunders has indicated to us, it's outside the CBD. The public parking is virtually too far away from where it is actually going to be, and I do have an issue with security as well. I mean, the well-being of the people who are going to attend to this private training and things like that is regarding the distance they would have to walk if they had to come right into town, CBD area, and move across. But also look at the actual business hours. It's important in this case because it's outside the mainstream business hours, which is prior to 9 a.m. and after 4 p.m. And I think it's fairly simple, this one.
Councillor McRae.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'd like to first congratulate another small business owner who's kicking off something impacting positively on the health of Orange residents. But I do have concerns that, as far as I know, this council hasn't actually got anything in the parking contributions account over the last 18 months, if not longer. And I guess I want to acknowledge that part of the parking contributions is that council is therefore taking the responsibility or the risk for inadequate parking. Now, if we basically say nobody has to pay parking contributions and it's a bit of a free-for-all out there on the streets, when the complaints may come from for example, the neighbouring proprietors of businesses who may or may not change their operations within their conditions of consent. I just think we should be alert to the fact that if we continue to be generous, which I will on this occasion agree to do, we need to make sure we're ready to wear the flak when there's complaints about a lack of parking. While there is the argument that between 9 and 4 it'll be one-on-one and there'll be a low impact, on a day that there's a big funeral in close proximity to there, when we do have busy days in that area, it is chockers, and we are going to field ongoing concerns regarding blocking of driveways, people parking inappropriately, and I think we just need to be aware that while ever we're not taking car parking contributions, we cannot build or have the funds to appropriately resource parking in other areas unless we're looking at them coming perhaps from parking fines, which I believe is a fairly healthy account process for Orange City Council.
Councillor Taylor.
Mr. Chairman, look, I can't justify supporting $24,000 in parking contributions in that particular area. I mean, we've done this before. There is ample precedents that have been put in place over the years. Similar type of business. The facility is there already. I can't see where, and the owner, Saunders, have stated to us about the times of use and so forth. It's not as it reads. And this is not. We are not reinventing the wheel here. It has been done many, many times where these contributions have been waived. This amount of money is a stifling amount of money that will make or break a business. Or the establishment of a business, I believe. And when we hit people with these type of contributions, it's a major impost, and it's a major impediment on the establishment of those businesses. Now, I understand if it's in the CBD, I understand if it's in a high traffic area, I understand if it's a business that's being established which has a large turnover of people using it. I've seen in this chamber, Mr. Chairman, coffee shops that have had waivers. They've generated enormous amounts of people. Now, this is someone who's trying to establish a business in this city, someone who has gone out of their way and probably made a major investment, and we're belting them for $24,000, I mean, on parking contributions, and it's very unlikely that those contributions will in fact reflect the parking that is used. I think it's absolutely out of this world that we ask for this, and I don't think it's been looked at enough, and that's the problem. We don't seem to look at developments when they're first put in place. When this development was first put in place, that's when it should have been looked at, the number of units and so forth. Now someone comes along and they have another use for it, and they have a practical use for it. It's not going to create traffic problems in that part of the world, I can tell you now. And it is close to the CBD, but it's not going to be a major impediment. So I don't support those contributions, and I'll be supporting the deletion of.
You, Councillor Munro.
Yeah, I'd like to stand to delete condition 4 as well. I support the small business, understand full well the amazing cost of the 24,000, but I also don't think we're giving this person a free ride. Not getting much for if she was to pay this amount of money, she's not getting much for it. Not like it's in a street that's really frequented or busy. As far as what that, you look at the hours. If a business, I hope, grows and gets to the point where it needs to change the conditions, then she'd probably be very happy to pay some parking contributions. But at the moment, when you look at this, where the position is, the size of the business, I can't vote for her to pay this amount of money. To say that she may be getting there's a free ride for different developments, sort of intimated a moment ago. Look, that I don't think's true, because we look at each development on its merit. Look, we do our due diligence in that regard. We look at the situation of the business. We make that determination, and that's for us to make that determination. I don't think just because we haven't had a lot of money and contributions come into council doesn't mean we look at this a different way either. I took the comment, but it's only when we change a business or we make it bigger or we sort of have to worry about the parking contributions. For me, I want to see this young lady go well. I'm not going to support her paying this for the reasons I just stated.
Any other comments? No
I'll
other
move
comments?
the motion be put.
We'll put the motion with the deletion of...
Yeah, I just want a brief right of reply. I'll only be brief. I just want to reiterate what Councillor Taylor said. In this chamber here, we have modified parking contributions. We've abolished parking contribution, even in the main part of the CBD. So it's nothing unusual that what we are actually doing in supporting our businesses.
So Duffy, does everyone understand the motion? All those in favour? Unanimous. Thank you. Move on to 2.4. Councillor Munro's declared an interest. Rosedale Gardens post-exhibition report. To move the motion.
I'll move it.
Councillor Kidd has moved and second Councillor Romano. Comment?
Just one comment. I think this is fantastic to see the development of the site, but the thing that excites me about it is it's a groundbreaking little bit looking at I suppose, whether it is or it isn't, but I mean it's moving towards like water neutrality if you're looking at stormwater harvesting off the site, and a lot of the water comes off the actual site being collected and being used on the site, and I think that's first for, well, certainly first for us here in Orange, and I'd imagine it'd be one of the first across the state, and I think putting that in with our stormwater harvesting, some of the other things, shows that we are actually leading the way in water conservation and use.
Thank you. Councillor Nugent.
Yes, thanks, Mr. Chair. Look, I'm happy to support the recommendation. There's obviously been a development that's been a long time in the making. I think the report talks about it starting maybe in 2016 or maybe earlier than that. There's been a number of steps in the process along the way. This is another step in that process. And I believe there's a number of other steps before we actually get to the stage of development applications being lodged. And I do commend the council staff in terms of the recommendation and the level of detail provided there, and all of those requirements that are in part 3 of the recommendation that the staff and council would like to see be applied to this particular. So on the basis that it's another step along on the process, I'm happy to support the recommendation.
Thank you. Any other? Councillor McRae.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Look, 2 comments. One, noting a number of the letters of concern were relating to the right to farm for neighbouring properties, and I think that that's something that should be kept in mind, particularly as it adjoins Gabonshire, and they have over a number of years been advocating through the Local Government New South Wales Conference, advocating for the right to farm, particularly where urban developments encroach on farmland, productive farmland. And secondly, I think it is really important we keep an eye on the traffic developments. I note on page 589, there's a projected increase in traffic volume of 1,171% for Leeds Parade. Sounds like a very scary number. It does say that the road is going to be able to cope, but in terms of being able to plan for good connectivity with the rest of the city, I would hope that it is something we keep in mind in terms of not having an isolated little pocket that's going to be reliant on one access in or out, particularly when there's also bushfire concerns with the development. So it'll be interesting to see how we do plan for that as this goes through its processes.
Thank you. Any other? Councillor Duffy.
Mr. Chairman, just on the issue of roads within that, I hope that when it comes back they're going to be sufficient, unlike what the people over to Farrell Road is when we're turning left up there. It's not adequate, and I think when the situation of this comes back, I think...
What's that got to do with this?
I'm talking about the width of the roads and those type of things as far as the planning matters when it comes back in front of us. And as for the right to farm, every farmer has the right to farm, but he doesn't have the right to encroach on his neighbour. So, he can't poison with Roundup or whatever it is next door neighbour, so he does have the right to farm.
No other comments. The only comment that I would make that I do note in the recommendation regarding runoff into the Pierce's Orchard, that the same amount of runoff will occur and the quality of the water will be watched, etc., because Pierce's are very major orchardists here in Orange, and regrettably one of the dwindling number of orchardists that we do have here. So I do note that. I also note, as far as Leeds Parade is concerned, I have previously called for an upgrade of Leeds Parade, especially to the entrance to CSU, where I've referred to it as a meagre rural road rather than the entrance to a major university in our area. So I hope that that's taken into account eventually. Can Mr. Hodges, any idea of how long this will take to be reviewed by the government before we get a recommendation back?
No, through you, Mr. Mayor. Sorry, Mr. Chair. I'm not aware of. We're getting close to our deadline to get this report back to the department. That's the first step to get through. But in relation to them, planning rezonings really depends on the gazettal when it comes through. So it's certainly not happening before February because there's been shutdown of no rezonings are coming out there now.
We're looking at least 6 months, perhaps.
Yes.
But not 2 to 3 years.
No.
Hopefully, right.
There's a bit to go before developing control plans and that type of thing as in the report.
Okay, no other comments. I'll put the motion. All those in favour?
Aye.
Unanimous again. We're having a good run tonight.
Mayor to run the infrastructure committee in, unless the mayor wants to give it to you.
I'll get Councillor. Oh, he's already back. He has returned.
Three there.
The finance and infrastructure.
Thanks, Councillor.
There are no items for the Employment and Economic Development, and we move on to Infrastructure Policy Committee meeting, which I'll chair in the absence of Councillor Whitten. Wrong folder. Is that 2.1? It is, isn't it? 2.1. Wait there. Yeah, 2.1. Oh, sorry. Yeah, 2.1 of the current works. You'll move, Councillor Hamling. Second, Councillor Nugent. Councillor Taylor.
Just a couple of questions. One relates to, well, they both relate to the roundabout at Matthews Avenue and Hill Street. We always have someone at some stage check. The residents up there were issued about the ceiling with a letter from, I don't know if it was a contractor or whoever, but they had the date and they were ringing me. I had the date of the ceiling was going to take place on the 26th of May. Basic thing, someone to proofread letter that goes out to all the residents around the place. It created confusion. Obviously, people worked out that wasn't the true date, but some were confused about when it was actually going to occur. And that comes down to, I'll just ask Mr. Greenham, is the seal that went down last, I think, Thursday or Friday, is that just a sealing coat that's there at the moment? Well, it's pretty substandard up in Matthews Avenue. I've had a couple of residents contact. And there's holes and gaps in it, and there's stone everywhere, and there's. So, is that a sealing coat? I hope.
I'll have to take that on notice, but essentially, at the moment, they haven't finished the sealing works. Yeah, so I can tell you that. So the works aren't finished.
I assumed it was a sealing coat. I said, no.
So
the road works were actually done last week, so I'd imagine there would have some showers or something on the weekend, so I'd imagine it's there to protect the roadworks and for the actual base of the roundabout. Now, the roundabout was also done, I just wanted to know, we hot mix.
Yes, yeah, the roundabout will be constructed in hot mix. Last Wednesday when I was on site there, they were still doing the stabilisation works, and maybe there was some misunderstanding about what was actually a seal coat and what was actually stabilisation works.
Well, there was a
perhaps.
seal coat put down, I noticed that, but I mean that people were concerned that it could bitumen hot mix, and I said, that's not.
That won't be the case.
It'd be first one that we've ever put down. So okay, so if we could find out whether that's the actual base coat, I imagine it would be, but could we?
Thanks, Councillor Taylor. Councillor Hamling.
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, just a couple of questions. The Summer Street lighting, understand I've had a few
LED
people
light.
talk to me about it's fairly bright now. I know we can't win. I know that those coloured lights do look really nice. I understand, are we able to maybe put some, we got some Christmas lights last year, correct? Did we?
Yeah.
I thought we spent some money on Christmas lights last year. I was just thinking maybe some fairy lights and I don't know, just to...
Very light going up very, very shortly in the
Unreal.
trees.
Yeah. Oh, that's fantastic.
Out here, and there's other decorations to go up for sure. Yeah.
Just the other thing too. Oh, beauty. The kangaroo's
not working.
Yeah, he's gone. I will be bringing a full report back from my. I went to the airport conference last week, and very interesting. It taught me a bit about how airports run and how we can do some different things out there. So I will be having a full report come back, but I'd like to see us probably spend a little bit more money out there since we've got a good.
What do you think, Councillor Hamley?
Just on the festoon lighting, there's been a lot of comment as there has been there, but are they only available in two colours, the white and the yellow? Right, everybody, get them?
Through you, Mr. Chair, it was a cost thing. Those ones are reasonably priced.
But council coloured ones can be got.
They could, and we were working out, oh no, you can't get the coloured LEDs, sorry. We couldn't get the equivalent coloured LEDs at a reasonable price. So we could have LED coloured.
So we could get them at a reasonable price.
A great deal of money. The $30,000 savings in operational costs was what attracted us to the proposal to use what we've got, the white ones.
What would it have cost if we went and got coloured ones?
Take that on notice.
Okay.
Can I just say, I'll take that on notice. Thank you.
Any other questions?
Yeah, I've got one. It's a resident in Nathan Street's contacted me. They have Nathan Street. They have sewer overflows 3 months. A few years ago, we replaced the sewerage, I think, up there. Continuation, it happened again on the weekend. 3 to 4 months, every 3 to 4 months, sewer comes straight up through the bathrooms and through the pipes up there. I mean, can we find some sort of permanent solution to that problem over there? It really is an embarrassment for council. It happens every 3 to 4 months.
Yeah, I'll certainly take that on notice.
It's a health risk. Comes up through the floor, there's raw sewage. That's enough.
I'll look at that. I'm not too sure what the actual cause is, whether it's a private tree or whether there's root ingress or it needs cutting out on a regular basis.
It's been ongoing for years.
Do you know the address?
Know the address.
Yeah.
I'll contact you after the meeting and we'll get those
They've replaced
details.
pipes, they've done everything, and it's still happening. And the gentleman involved is at his wit's end. It's regular occurrence every 3 months.
All in favour? Against? Thank you. We now have the Sport and Recreation Policy Committee. Councillor Hamling. And we're bringing the...
And the Sport and Recreation Committee at 8 o'clock. I'll move on to item 2.1, committee minutes. Minutes of the Australia Day Community Committee meeting held. Yeah. Moved by Councillor Munro, second by Councillor Turner. Any discussion?
Look, if anyone's available, we might need a hand this year. We've got a few people who've retired or left Orange and so forth, and there's a fair bit of work to do. So if any councillors are available,
And in the general public would like to give us
or
a
anyone
hand?
in the general public's got a few hours spare, whatever, could for Australia Day, particularly on the afternoon the day before when we've got to pick up gear and so forth, and on the actual day of Australia Day, there's a fair few bits and pieces that have to be done down there. So if anyone's got a half an hour they could spare, to be much appreciated.
Councillor Nugent.
Thanks, Mr. Chair. Just a question in relation to the implementation of Workplace by Facebook on page 7. I must admit I haven't come across Workplace by Facebook, but I know that the Australia Day Committee is intending to use it as a communication collaboration tool. It will be used as a pilot for other community committees. Utilise the same platform. Just wondering whether other community committees could also jump on board and volunteer to sort of pilot that.
We're a pilot.
If they wish to.
Through you, Mr. Chair, we're sort of trialling it through the Australia Day Committee, and then
want to pick an
depending on the
intelligent
success
committee
there,
to have a go.
Right
with others.
Yes is the answer, hopefully.
Up a few other intelligent committees. Okay, so what sort of time frame is that pilot running?
I'd probably need to get back to you on the time frame. Yeah, let me have a look at that and we'll...
Okay, thank you.
Any other speakers? Councillor Turner.
Regarding the Australia Day Community Committee, I noticed that Catherine Tollner has resigned and Matthew Chisholm's now the chair. Could I get the council to send a letter of thanks and congratulations to Catherine? Did a great job as chairperson, and got a couple of other members on the committee who are very active as well. And whilst I'm not on the committee anymore, I'm quite aware of the amount of work that she put into it and the enthusiasm. A letter thanking her.
That's been organised already.
Well, that'll be done. Councillor Turner. Councillor Romano, did you want to say?
Still in the minutes, aren't we? Still talking about the minutes.
Yep.
Is that a matter arising? Are we finished? Are we done with the minutes?
I'll put it first. All those, I'll put the minutes. All those in favour say aye. Against? Carried. Councillor Munro.
Romano.
Munro.
Thank you, Councillor Nugent. Hamling. I just want to, we're in the Sports and Rec, I just want to acknowledge that the archery committee, well, there's no committee yet, but there was a lot of interest in the archery. Monday afternoon, Monday evening, we had a meeting at the Naylor Pavilion. There was probably 8 or 9 people that turned up, other than the ones that I know. I think Mr. Grinham was there, and Mr. Maunder's secretary, Renee Meacham, is it? Yeah, she turned up. What I'm saying here is that it was very positive. And of all the surprise of the evening was that our state member, Phil Tornado, turned up. I don't know how he became aware of it, but he also has offered support in trying to get some funding to do with, which will come up later in the meeting, the public toilets and a canteen. So he's explained to us how to put the funding forward, and I think it was a great outcome. Only early days, but there is interest in the community, and that's what I wanted to report back to the council, that I think this is something that will take off, and once it does, people get used to it. I think it's a great attraction for teenagers, for kids. Get them off the streets, give them something extra to do.
Mr. Chairman, look, I want to congratulate Councillor Romano on that initiative. I think that is one of the most understated things that this community is looking at the moment. An archery club in that facility. I mean, the previous council built that pavilion there, and I mean it has been, and I think it was reports come back to council and it was underutilised and so forth. And this is a wonderful way to use that facility. But why? I mean, this was put up months and months ago. We're probably getting into years. I mean, I can't see. I'm no expert on archery. I know they're extremely powerful things, the bows and arrows, and of course to prevent them going through the walls and so forth, they would have to have something substantial. But I mean, surely we've worked that out by now. I mean, hay bales or tyres or something. I mean, why is it taking so long to get this in place? I would have thought it would have been a few months and we'd have had it up and running, because I really think it's something that's going to boom. I think there's going to be a lot of interest in it, and like I say, it gives an immense amount of support and usage for that pavilion over there, which would fundamentally lay idle. And it's pleasing to hear that Mr. Donato's on site as far as those facilities. That's what Council heard there. I mean, you were part of it, Councillor Hamling. I mean, we heard putting a facility like that up without those facilities like kitchen and toilets and that in the first place. It probably should never have happened. I think that pavilion cost Council something like about 1.7 million. And to put it in this day and age without those facilities. So it's good to hear the local members on the job there. But boy, can we get moving with this? I mean, I know that Councillor Romano's outlined there's committee in place, but for heaven's sakes, I mean, it's not, like I say, got those arrows with tyres or hay bales. I mean, if that's the biggest impasse at the moment, I mean, surely we can get through that and get on with the job.
Councillor Duffy.
Mr. Chairman, I went to the meeting over there, and I want to thank Ardo for turning up, as we should always thank any member, whether it be state or federal or National Party or Labor or whatever they are. We should always thank and give thanks to people that come and bring us money and give us some money. But I just want to go back a little bit to the discussions we had there, and there's some very exceptionally good discussions there, especially about the formation of a committee. They may be a subcommittee of the archery group, whatever the case may be, and that will solve a lot of issues. There was other issues, and one of the issues that Councillor Taylor did mention was hay bales that could be used, and also some certain horse matting or whatever the case be. But I do believe they are going to go away and come back ASAP with some information so we can move this forward quickly, because I think it has a huge potential, and I was surprised at the enthusiasm of a number of the residents over there.
Councillor Munro.
I'd like to sort of encourage, if we're going to go forward in a hurry and do it, might be a good idea to let us out to schools and see what interest next year's been done. Well, that's wonderful. Just to get some feedback on electives and schools might want to come and use.
Look, can I look? I support it also, and I have for quite a period of time. I remember this time last year we met out there with Ardo, Arno, and a few of us met out on the site. And I said at the time, and I will say it again, although it might upset some people, that is a tremendous pavilion. I can see an incredible amount of uses. But the hamstring is not having amenities block, canteen or a kiosk with it. You look across a couple of the events that I've been out there where they've had days out there looking at road safety with kids at school and showing them a crushed up car. Kids had to build out down the other end to go to the loo, and that makes a bit of a problem. Some of them go up the loo and don't come back for a while. But I think there's a whole range of other things, could be a ball, someone's 18th birthday party, a whole host of different things. It is a big, big building, but the hamstring is not having a key. I think our local member said last year he's quite willing to get on board. I'll certainly tend to see if he can. But I think this is something that we look at as a council, and even if we've got to borrow the money, that needs to have that kiosk, if you like, the amenities, fast as we possibly can get on it. And I will speak later on, my own mind just can't see how that can cost $600,000. I really can't. Seriously, and I've been out there and had a good look at it. I'm not a builder, but it was built on what exists. Really and truly, I just cannot see that. I'm not sure how many toilets we're talking about, but I think if you had 2 and 2 or something like that, and then we're not talking about a huge kiosk, just not for catering like the function centre, something like that. It isn't in fact a kiosk. So I think we need to look at this and moving along as quickly as we possibly can. I'd love to see it in place and operational before next year's show.
We'll be dealing with the canteen a bit later on. So we're still talking about archery, Councillor Romano?
Clarification that Mr Donato did state, and Councillor Duffy can confirm this, and Mr Grinham was there as well, that the application for funding has been lodged. Is that correct, Mr Grinham? There was a statement made on the site.
I just want to. We will be getting onto the canteen. We can talk about all that when it comes up and comes up later. Councillor Miletto.
Thank you.
Is it about archery?
It is.
Fantastic.
And I'm just a bit confused. I'm getting mixed messages here with regards to is there or is there not a committee set up to run this archery club? I know there appears to be a lot of enthusiasm, but enthusiasm will go nowhere unless you've got a committee. So I guess what my question is, has there been some sort of commitment by anybody to start up a committee to progress this? Otherwise, we've got a white elephant. May end up like the BMX track, where we've spent a lot of money to set something up and nobody to run it.
I'll get that answered.
Yeah, I can answer that, Mr Chairman. I was at the meeting. It was addressed at the meeting. There is a number of them going to the archery meeting to form a subcommittee under the archery to set that concept, and we hope to have, or they hope to have, an answer within a matter of days if that can happen. And that solves a lot of issues for them. It solves the insurance issues and all those type of things. So it's fantastic if it does happen. I have every confidence in them being successful because they can counteract with each other, both organisations.
Thanks, Councillor Duffy.
There will be a committee formed either way.
Thank you.
I suppose the difference is that we're not building infrastructure for the archery club. It's in the shed, so the shed doesn't have to get pulled down like the BMX track. So,
in the pavilion.
Oh, the pavilion, sorry. Okay, we put the Australia Committee. I'll move on to late item number 3. Is everyone right to deal with that? The sporting precinct? Yep. I'll move it from the chair. Seconded by Councillor Munro. Any discussion?
Good report. Look forward to coming back.
Councillor Munro.
Look, Mr Chair, it's a good report. I think great opportunity to go forward and use that as the other area that we have put aside. Can wait, I suppose. Something else might go there one day, but I think well to promote Jack Bratham Pavilion, maybe. Jack Bratham, an honourable thing for that to happen one day. Let's hope that it all goes forward and progresses fast. Jack Bratham would.
Chairman, I want to lend my support to the actual report. I think it's, or the actual design or capability of what could be there. I do have a concern with our fallback place, which is the Northern Distributor. I do have an issue with that, with the asbestos. The asbestos was mentioned in one of the DAs in Astle Drive. I fully support this situation here where we're going out around.
Councillor Miletto.
Thank you. Just looking at the implementation when the site is fully developed, just looking at number 3, cricket training facility. Can somebody just educate me on what that involves when we just spend over nearly $2 million on a cricket of excellence at Wade Park?
Mr. Maunder.
Sure. Through you, Mr. Chair. One of the, thank you for my red lights on. One of the configurations out at proposed for that site when we hold carnivals such as the junior cricket carnivals, etc. And just on the southern side of the proposed athletics precinct, there was a bit of land left over in an awkward position. So we thought we could just include 4 outdoor cricket nets there, just for warm-up facilities, whatever, just a bit of leftover land. That may or may not change with land. That point is state-owned. So that may or may not change that particular design. It's just really a
an awkward triangle with, rather than leaving it green, we thought we could utilise it for that facility so people could warm or participate in those carnivals.
Thank you.
Councillor Nugent.
Thanks, Mr. Chair. Look, I'm very happy with the report and commend the staff involved in putting it together. I like the design and I'm just it's incredible how many different sporting fields potentially be fitted into that area and the multi-use of those at different times of the year. One of the design features up at the Northern Distributors site that I liked was there was a running track around the outside for cross-country running, maybe for triathlons. That doesn't seem to have been incorporated or brought over into this design. I'm not sure whether there's any capacity to do it, but maybe up on that northern end of the site that could be incorporated. So I know it's just sort of concept designs at the moment, but I'd like to see obviously as much potential use of this site as possible. It's quite close to where the triathlons will be happening. It's where Orange Running Festival sort of happens. So if some consideration for that could be included in future designs, that'd be great.
Yes, this is great news, and I suppose we should note that we were always looking at different sites. This was always on the radar, but the opportunity never came along for us to do anything about it. So I just need to ask a question. So with this Crown Land Association and all that sort of thing, this could still go ahead without that?
Through you, Mr. Chair, I'll ask Mr. Maunder to comment, but the answer is yes.
Yes.
Suppose in the report you'll note there's a lease at the moment with Orange Ex Services Club. If they were to relinquish that lease, that land would become available. We're the Crown Land manager for that site. So as we are for Robinson Park, as we are for Wade Park, as we are for Brabham, currently is Crown. We would simply seek approvals for the construction.
And just one more, a time frame of when we could, if this all goes ahead, when we could go to the government saying we've done our bit, cough up the cash?
I received a letter last week from the state via the CEO advising us of the next steps, which includes to demonstrate certain requirements. Get that to the state early in the new year. It does currently have a difficulty in it in that fund that it's added at the allocations nominated. Which means if you spend 25 million, you've got to generate 25. So that's something we're working through at the moment.
Just as a question.
Can I just say on that, post a meeting earlier on there, we did write the letter and I went down to Sydney and saw the Premier, Deputy Premier, guaranteed that we're getting the money. Mr. Moore is talking about now is the process of that sort of funding. We had a meeting on that and sounds might be difficult to reach, but it's not really. You've got to come up with some genuine ideas. In this sort of funding, you've got to show you're attracting new things to Orange, not pinching them from somewhere else, you know what I mean? State event, like you're not pinching the state netball championships from Dubbo to here. You've got to show that this is from in-state.
National. Yep.
So we had a bit of discussion on that. We think it's pretty easy to start looking at games, veteran games, age group things, national titles. Today, they were saying, you've got a complex such as this, it's pretty easy to get a lot of these national titles now, particularly if you've got a good grandstand and a lot of other fields that they can go off and. So I think either way, one is looking at trying to meet the VCR. If we think it's too difficult, we go the other way. And can I just say with the site, I really do hope it does go ahead. Look, it just lends itself to all sorts of things. some of the things we haven't thought about. That two road accesses out there, Huntley Road and Forest Road, close to the hospital, close to Wangarang Industries, not too far from Manson Street School. Those involved, and as you know, special T-ball that they play out there now, and it's getting bigger. There are, with the special T-ball, there are teams that come from Bathurst, Lithgow, Cowra, and some of the other towns, and it's a real competition out there. They love it here. That's something that we should. People that organise that is fantastic. If you haven't been out there, have a look at it. Go out and have a look at it. So much enjoyment out of it, and take it very, very serious too. And it's an actual competition now. So I think it really lends itself, that site, to a whole range of sports. Perhaps some things we haven't even really thought of it. And don't forget what we've got in here are concept plans. That's not set in concrete anyhow.
Just as a follow-up question to yours, Mr. Chairman, the going back to the funding, subject to a stage, various different stages in regards to athletics or the stadium or whatever the case may be, it's all going to be one hit paid.
Mr. Chair, we don't have that detail yet, Councillor, but my understanding is the allocation is the allocation. We haven't had any indication of stage funding.
How long's it live for?
We haven't been advised that either.
And I do want to the site out on the Northern Distributor Road, even though Councillor Duffy brings up the asbestos, that can be dealt with. Narambula had naturally occurring asbestos and all that sort of thing. That was dealt with. But I do think that site should be kept for 10 to 20 years' time if we need to build more fields, which I'm sure Orange is going to grow. So having that sort of site available to do that. Anyway, I'll shut up. I'll Councillor Privitera.
Is it possible to write to the Premier after she constantly says the money is guaranteed? Why are we spending money writing reports for money that she's guaranteed coming to the council?
Councillor Kidd could probably, he had a meeting with her, so.
Yeah, you moved and you endorsed us writing, and I actually went down, and I've been told, now I take that, and I had other people with me, I would take the Premier and the Deputy Premier on their word in this case. And I'll tell you what, if they're not, I'll be the first one to yell, scream, blue murder. I don't think we can do much more than that.
It doesn't make sense to me to spend money writing reports that could cost, 60, 70 grand for an application that she said it is guaranteed.
The process is that we've been guaranteed, we've been told that we've got $24 million, right? And now that's set in concrete. If it costs any more than that, we've got to try and get funding elsewhere, whether it be other grants or whatever. But I don't look a gift horse in the mouth either.
Councillor Munro.
Also, with that, you've got to take the Premier on her word, because, in my opinion, you have to take her on her word, because and you've got to understand why they want certain criteria. They've got to justify their budget as well as we do as a council. If someone comes to us, isn't wanting something or whatever, we have to justify ourselves giving them that money as well. So it's exactly the same thing, just a bigger bucket.
I just think it's great news, and sooner the better, and we can get this sporting precinct ticked off and go from there. I'll put that. All those in favour say aye. Against, carried, unanimous. Just a matter arising, can I just ask an update on the cricket centre? When are they going to start knocking it down and building? We went out for tender 4 weeks ago.
Yep. Mr. Chair, there was an element in the tender that we had to the final sign-off on, which we received 3 weeks ago. Provided that to the successful tenderer to provide us for a price on that component. We've received that last week, so we're just in the stages of signing the contract. The works, I know they want to do that, commence the demolition before Christmas. That's what we're working towards.
Okay, Councillor Duffy.
Just another matter rising along the same lines. The HPV series, the thing out of Gosling Creek, where are we at with that? We've received funding for it. where we're going with it, how long we can expect to report. So.
That's not actually our project. It's a project that's been funded. They commenced work today on that.
Any other questions? Okay, I'll close the Sport and Recreation Committee at 8:26. I'll call on
Councillor
Privatera.
I'm looking on. He can't read his writing.
I'd like to open the Environmental Sustainability Policy Committee on the 3rd of December, time being 8:24. I'm ahead of myself. Does any council have a pecuniary interest, significant non-pecuniary interest? No. Item 2.1, Annual Waste Diversity and Education Strategy Implementation.
Second it.
Moved by Nugent, second by Munro. Councillor Munro. Any discussion on this?
Another good report. Good to see how things are progressing in terms of diversion of waste from landfill. There's probably two areas of minor concern that I have. One is in relation to key result area 6, reduce illegal dumping. I'm not sure how much. We did have a sort of a working group working on that for a period of time. Mel Butcher, I think, was pretty active in that area until she moved up to Queensland. We take our dog out to Kinross Forest and walk the dog fairly regularly. And while there's probably not, I don't see a lot of car bodies and mattresses, there's still a lot of rubbish that is dumped out there. So I'm not sure how much we're doing in terms of the education on the illegal dumping issues. So that's an area I'd probably like to see ramped up if possible. The other one is the commercial and industrial waste figure, which is showing it's 16% diversion, I think, from landfill at the moment, which seems to have dropped to some extent over time, and there's a target there of 70%. I know that there's some significant issues in that regard, but I'm not sure what we can do to try and get that figure moving upwards rather than downwards. And the report's a very good report, but there doesn't seem to be a lot of discussion of that 16%. There are two areas of minor concern that I'd note.
Look, just one on the waste. I'd still like to see us consider anyhow how we can have a bulky waste pickup. I think I mentioned it last year. There may be the opportunity with us leading the way on. It could be a little business for someone, to set up that charge so much a ute load or a trailer load or whatever. There are a lot of people that just don't have a utility, don't have a trailer, or are elderly and don't have opportunity to do that. And I honestly believe it's interesting if you do have a bulky waste pickup day. It's unbelievable the amount of stuff that ends up out there. And I think sometimes the reason for some of the dumping that occurs because of that. And I just wonder if we can sort of explore some avenues, perhaps look at other councils that may have supporting someone setting up a little business, or if there is someone around, if we help promote it, people can ring into a number or whatever it may be, and one can pick it up and take it out there for them. Yeah, we can look at that.
Take that on notice, Mr. Chair. We'll have a look at that.
Did they have Councillor Munro had to?
Who? Sorry.
At 8:29, Councillor Romano.
Thank you. Thank you. I'll put the motion 4-4. Unanimous. Thank you, councillors. Conclusion of the environmental sustainability policy meeting. I'm being 8:31 on Darren back to finance policy.
Thank you, Councillor Prevatera. I'd like to open the Finance Policy Committee meeting of the 3rd of December 2019 with the time being 8:32 p.m. We've already addressed interest, so we'll move on. Item 2.1, the minutes of the Audit and Risk Management Committee meeting held on the 25th of October 2019.
Those, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Kidd, seconding Councillor Munro. Any discussion? If no discussion, I'll put the motion. All in favour?
Aye.
Against? Carried unanimously of those in the room. We have item 3.1, the proposed internal audit outsourcing service. There's a recommendation on page 290.
Seconded.
Munro, seconded Councillor Kidd. Discussion on this item.
I dare not upset the financial team.
It's particularly of note, this is an innovation whereby actually we could provide support to other council areas and potentially earn some income. Love an idea that actually brings us income into Orange City Council. So with no further discussion, I'll put the motion. All in favour? Against? Carried unanimously. And item 3.2, the request for financial assistance. We've got quite a list on page 298.
I'll move.
Councillor Kidd has moved, seconded by Councillor Munro. Any discussion on any of these? Thank you, Councillor Hamling.
I'll just get number 8 explained a bit. One with the Rotary Club, how it didn't get paid out last year, something or other.
Does staff have more information? I know I've asked some similar questions.
Yeah,
it does mean we've got 2 donations to the Rotary Club of Orange North tonight.
Okay.
Madam Chair, we've lost our Mrs. Freeman on that item. I'm sorry. We could take it on notice.
Take it on notice, yeah.
And have a crack.
Oh, sorry, Mr. Maunder.
Well,
Mr. Maunder, sorry, Mr. Maunder.
I'd rather, can I defer number 8 so we can have some more information, if that's possible?
Can we have an explanation?
I can try. See if it
didn't know you could.
I can try, and if it satisfies council, it satisfies council.
Make it good.
So last year we resolved to provide that donation to Rotary. They met certain conditions. Don't recall what those certain conditions. That was rejected at the time by the applicant. So the donation didn't proceed out of last year's allocation.
What's changed this year?
So they've written to us and said, had that have come to the board would have accepted those conditions. Conditions don't have the detail on that, what those conditions were around that. That's why there's a recommendation. The person said no, the board said we would have done it. They've since done it. Now can we have the money? That's why it's up.
I think it should have been a board decision and it didn't go to the board. It just went to an individual who said no.
So if council needs the detail around what the exact requirements were, we can provide.
Just to clarify, so we did previously approve it, didn't we? Yes.
Yeah.
On approved it conditionally, saying if you do these certain things, don't have the detail in front.
So I did follow up, and I remember at the time asking some questions. One of the main issues was that the project was actually going outside our LGA, or there was no guarantee the funds would stay in our LGA. So there were some conditions put around the Guide Dogs New South Wales, setting aside the funds for a trust which would support potentially an Orange local resident. So that was where there was quite a bit of discussion about how that would be managed between the Rotary Club, which was doing the fundraising, Guide Dogs New South Wales, who would be the recipients of the fund, and how that also tied into our requirements as a local government entity and supporting outside our local government area. So the conditions were related to meeting our obligations.
Our obligations now.
Sorry, Ms. Director, you're affirming that?
That's the information that I've been provided. I haven't personally checked it.
Madam Chair, through.
I'm going to say I actually asked for I asked for some more information regarding the auditing of those clubs' financial records to indicate if that had been done. So I haven't received that
approve
info.
all of them bar that one tonight. That
More
one, not the whole report, eh?
Yeah, no, that's what I was going to do.
So I'll move that.
I'll
Second, Councillor Henley.
I'll defer item number 8.
So the deferring item 8 is moved by Councillor Kidd, seconded by Councillor Hamling.
Do we get more information back?
Vacation, I think, would be wise. Councillor Munro?
Look, more of a comment than anything. I remember the issue. I remember the donation. I remember something like blind dogs. I feel, we've got to look. Money not spent right now, but we have 2 unfortunate kids along in there, or 3 or 4 or 10, Orange. They get a guide dog. We're a country that is very much to say no to something like Rotary that does so much work for so many things in different areas in our town.
Point of order, Mr.
I know it
Point
might
of
be
order.
a point of order, but it's just a
We're
comment.
not saying no. We're not saying no to it. I just think it's ratepayers' money, and we need to be able to explain what's going on. And it'll probably come back, and we'll approve it.
I think that's a point of order, but I think that Councillor Munro is speaking against the deferral.
It's pretty much a comment.
He's speaking for or against?
Look, I'll speak for the deferral because it'll come up again. That's no worry. But what I'm saying is, blind dogs, what that money would go to, and what other work that the Rotary does for our town in many other areas. I think we've got to support them 100%, and we have. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Munro. Any further discussion on this item? So, procedure-wise, shall we do the first 7, then number 8?
I would separate into 2. I would say let's do 1 to 7. Then have a second part of the motion or to defer 8.
Thank you for that advice. So we'll do recommendations 1 through 7. All in favour? That's unanimous. And item 8, which is that we defer waiting some more information. All in favour? Against? Carried.
Unanimous.
That was unanimous. Item 3.3, we have Carols by Candlelight, page 377, moved by Councillor Nugent, seconded by Councillor Munro. Any discussion on this item? I think there was a comment, there was a great idea. I concur. Any further discussion?
If I can just make a comment, it's relevant here because it's Christmas. Look, carols by candlelight and what we do on New Year's Eve are fantastic. But I would also like to congratulate the Orange City Centre putting on last Saturday Santa Claus thing down the street. It was a number of people. There was a huge crowd down there. I think the adults and the grandparents had as good a time as the kids did. And I can never remember, some other people in here may, I can never ever remember, and it was just the amazing look on the kids' faces that there were 2 reindeer, 2 live reindeer. And I mean, that's what really got the adults in too, leading the sled down there. And it was interesting, posted, I didn't see any criticisms on social media or anything. The street was only closed for a short period of time, that part of it. And I mean, it's not really inconvenienced anyone for a great period of time. And I congratulated them, and I will again this weekend, and I hope it becomes an annual thing. I think it's just fantastic, and it just gets you in the right mood for the festive season. So in that, I wouldn't mind your permission if I write a letter to them, bring it on. That took a lot of organisation, I'm quite sure, and it would have cost them a few to do.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just in terms of this item 3.3, I think it's important to note this is a way that council is making a contribution that comes from public donations to support the Orange Community Christmas Lunch, which is run by volunteers in one of our local church groups. So it's a nice way to see that cycle of giving continue. With no further discussion, I'll put the motion. All in favour? Against? Nil carried. Thank you, councillors. That concludes the Finance Policy Committee meeting, with the time being 9:43 p.m. And I call on Councillor Munro to conduct the Services Policy Committee.
Thank you, Councillor Joe McRae. On with it. Thank you, councillors. I'd like to open the Service Policy Committee meeting 3rd of December at 23 minutes to 9. Thank you. Does any councillor have any pecuniary interest, significant non-pecuniary interest, or less than significant non-pecuniary interest in any matter listed consideration at this meeting? No. Item 2.1, minutes of the Cultural Heritage.
Moved.
Second.
Any discussion at all? No. Show of hands. Unanimous, thank you. Item 3.1, storage needs of the service clubs. Moved, thank you. By Rich Kidd, and seconded by who was it?
Councillor Nugent.
Thank you.
Question, Mr. Chair.
Yes.
Regarding the call it the Redmond Place hangar, have an explanation of why the previous leaseholder moved out, but mainly here agreement had been reached with each of the clubs regarding cleaning the gardens, etc., etc. One assumes that they've got their own appropriate insurance in place, given the raft of arson attacks that we've been going through lately. It's sadly a possibility that someone might get in there one day, but we've got an assurance they've got all their own insurance. That particular thing.
Through you, Mr. Chair, yes, each of the clubs that are storing items there have entered into agreements with independent of each other.
Reason why the previous lease. I got that.
I don't have that information. I'm sorry.
Mr. Chair, would the councillor take a confidential memo on that? Goes to the heart of the business relationship there. Thank you.
Good. 3.2. Village of the Heart.
Move the other one.
Oh, yeah, sorry. We'll move that. Sorry, move that motion. Thank you. Unanimous. Thank you. 3.2, Village of the Heart.
Your recommendation?
By Hamling.
Second.
By Nugent. Thank you. That concludes the policy. Oh, you're going to speak on?
Yeah, look, I just wanted to say thanks for this report. It's an important part of our history which doesn't really get there's not a lot of acknowledgement of it, of that particular settlement, the Springs, which quite a vibrant place, I understand, in the 1930s, 1940s, with both Aboriginal and non-Aboriginal people. I often ride up that pathway, and you wouldn't sort of know that the site is there. So I think, and the public art concepts that are contained in this report, I think will give some appropriate acknowledgement to that particular settlement, both out there and I understand here in the cultural precinct. I'm hopeful that we can get some grant funding to undertake the project in hopefully the not too distant future, because I'd really like to see it go ahead, and so I'd certainly encourage the staff to apply for whatever funding grants there may be out there at the moment. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, councillors. That concludes the services policy. Oh, I've got to put that. Sorry. Okay.
Almost.
Put that to a vote, please. Unanimous. Thank you.
Matter arising, Mr. Chairman. My question is maybe we can get a report come back, not to the next first one we do come back, as regards to the Historical Association. As regards to I remember Councillor Whitten moved a resolution as regards to the old photographs, and we've seen the benefit of those. Yeah, and I'm just wondering where they're actually up with that. I also do believe that we're also looking for storage facilities for them. And have we identified any where we can put storage for them? That some of them were talking about the old training skills centre out at email, or whatever you want to call it. But I just want to know, can we have a report come back to address those issues in February, whenever the first meeting is going to be?
Happy to, Mr. Chair.
Discussion's finished. Thank you, councillors. That concludes the Service Policy Committee meeting. Being the time of 9:55. And I'll call on Councillor Edgekid to...
Councillors, item 4, notices of motion, notices of rescission. First of all, we have 4.1, notice of motion, Southern Feeder Road.
Happy to move it, Mr. Chairman.
Move Councillor Duffy, second Councillor Hamling.
Mr. Chairman, the previous council worked very hard on a number of roads, especially or what we call main roads in and around our city, and we had a lot of angst amongst ourselves. So, as we looked at the Forest Road, we looked at Cargo Road, we looked at the Northern Distributor Road, we looked at Canobus Road, and they were in a mess. They were in a mess, and congratulations to the previous council for doing something about it. But in those roads was, as Councillor Hamley mentioned before, the section of Ploughman's Lane. That's been like that for well over a decade, heading on towards a generation when you talk about numbers. And what I'm hoping to do is that we concentrate heavily as a council to get that section of the road done as regards to the finances of seeking finance assistance from the state government. I know that the staff have been working very hard to get their different avenues to get funding. I do think we should really highlight the fact that we really do need that section of road, because it is our worst main link road at the moment. There are other roads that are in dire need of repair, such as Wentworth Lane or Isley Road in various sections, and alongside the DPI up here in Anson Street. But this one here is important. I spoke about it about 4 or 5 years ago as regards when I did the live stream, which it was part of that live stream, and it got 15,000 hits within 2 weeks. So I think it's time that we did concentrate a little bit on that section of road. It is now covered with walkers and runners and push bike riders, for God's sake, are now coming down there. So we need to make that wider and make it more presentable.
I suppose I better talk about it, because I did bring it up a couple of weeks ago. I understand that the staff are going after a country roads funding grant. So Yeah, you're being an internet superstar, I suppose. I better back you up on this one. 15,000 hits in 2 weeks. That's amazing. I agree. We do have a lot of joggers and we do have a lot of riders. So as part of that funding, if we do get it, is that including a cycle track, a separate footpath? Because I think that needs to be looked at as well, because it is very widely used, especially early in the morning. You've got joggers and bike riders riding along that road in the dark. I don't think there's a hell of a lot of lighting down there, and it can be pretty dangerous. So, I suppose get the road fixed first. Maybe look at some sort of, because there is a connection there to go down basins and all that sort of. There's that little bridge down the end near Forbes Road there. So maybe hooking that up to the other end of Cargo Road might be something we can look at.
Through Mr. Chair, that link is in the bike plan.
Love the bike plan.
Yeah, Mr. Mayor. Look, I'm happy to support this motion. I'd just like sort of a bit of clarification. We already have funding for stages 3 and 4, and my understanding is that staff are happy to support this recommendation, subject to those stages being completed first. And that currently, my understanding, that part of the road is stage 9. So what we're talking about is making that part of the road stage 5 and then renumbering everything else, I'm assuming. I think it makes some sense to sort of, we've come from one end, the eastern end, and to sort of come from the western end, where in the more heavily trafficked area, to sort of come and eventually, might be 10 years or 15 years down the track, and eventually hopefully we'll meet up. But yeah, I think this makes some logical sense, and it does address those issues that Councillor Hamling has raised at least once, if not twice, in the chamber prior to tonight. So I'm happy to support the motion.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. I certainly support the motion, and really more importantly than the condition of the road in between, we've got to sort out the mess, Cargo Road and the intersection with the I was nearly going to say the Forbes Road, but Escort Way. They are dangerous. There's an accident waiting to happen because of the configuration. And could I ask that before we can complete that road, we've got an acquisition of some land. Where is that up to?
Well, I was going to take it on notice, but you might have more idea. I think it was going through the compulsory acquisition process.
Correct. The Escort end is going through that process. Cargo end is secured, would be my understanding.
Still going through the process
on the Forbes Road. Yep.
I'll put the motion.
Mr.
Oh, sorry.
Mr. Can I just make a comment generally about the Southern Distributor Road? It comes back to logic and common sense again. I know the priority will be, the next stage will be, I'd imagine, Nelson to the highway. But the fact of the matter is, the Anson Street, Pinnacle, we don't have a road. There is no road there. Now, that road was prioritised. There's a road servicing the Mitchell Highway at the moment, and the road, once the bridge is open, the road there has been servicing the Leewood Industrial Estate and heavy traffic there for not in the best of condition. We all know that, but the road is there, and the road will not. Wouldn't logic determine that we would build Pinnacle leg before that to establish a road so you actually have the link from Pinnacle Road effectively right through to the Mitchell Highway. It completes your southern distributor, as in where the outline of the road is. Now, the other thing, that I'm concerned about putting that project forward, that the horrendous amount of traffic in Anson Street with James Sheen, time when school goes in and comes out in the afternoon, enormous amounts of traffic, and we've discussed this in this chamber before. That link road between the Pinnacle area and which would link on to Woodward Street and so forth, that would alleviate a lot of that problem, because a lot of that traffic would be able to go up and would be able to turn right and head out that way or head in from that direction. So it would alleviate a lot of that congestion problem up in Anson. Could I ask that council start to think about that? The road, as I say, and will reiterate, the road from Elsham Avenue to the highway is already there. Servicing heavy vehicles has done for many without much problem.
The director come back to us with a report.
Can I comment now, just briefly? Both projects, but the project you're talking about is actually stage 4 that is funded. It is being progressed in parallel with stage 3.
I was doing it at the same time.
Not necessarily directly at the same time, but through the design and the REF process. Because that section involves a going through some greenfield sites where there isn't a road at the present time. The REF process has probably slowed that one from coming to council at this stage or going out for tender at this stage. However, the stage 3 one is part of the closed. There's a recommendation in regard to stage 3 and closed tonight. Stage 4 will progress shortly and we'll continue to progress through that design and REF phase to close that out and then go out to tender as well early in the new year.
Okay, I'll put the motion.
Can I just
You
make
lose
a
it?
following?
Are you speaking for or against? You're closing the debate.
I'm closing the debate. I just want to reiterate what Councillor Taylor said there is about the heavy traffic. These big semi-trailers coming down through Canobus Road down into that section, then going across onto the NDR and heading out wherever direction they actually want to go. But the other big issue is that I think in the near future there's always a push by various organisations, especially heavy vehicles and all those type of things, to open up more range to B doubles. And it only needs to be a little bit more work done on Cargo Road, and you will see the B doubles coming along there, and that will bring them down in from Cowra or Goolagong or wherever the stock feed comes and onto our main road system here. Be a little bit shorter and a little bit quicker. So I think it's good, and I commend the staff for their efforts on what they've been doing.
I'll put the notice of motion. All in favour, hands please. Thank you. 4.2 is the notice of motion, formation of policy review committees.
Mr. Chairman, I moved this one here, and I moved it in the previous council as well, and we looked at it too, and there was a brief report came back to council and was delivered by our then employee, Ms. Caitlin. But this one here is to look at the policies we have, and I do take notice what Councillor Turner said today. You know, we sit here and we've got 700 pages to read through on our planning matters, and you only get 3 or 4 days to read them. So some of them you sort of take on notice. But some of our policies need updating and a little bit out. And I know myself and Mr. Mayor, we've spoken about some of them about being embarrassed in certain situations when we go away. Others, such as the weeds, maybe we should need to look at what the situation there of our weeds policy, the code of conduct with the law that's been through the things at the moment. But it's not being specific of who should be on it, as they'll name 4 experienced councillors. If other councillors want to come on it, by all means, because it's there for a learning curve to learn what actually happens. But I do think it's time that we did have a review of them, and more specifically given more time to actually go through them and those type of things there. That's basically what it is.
Councillor Mileta.
Thank you, and I thank the councillor for his motion. Just a bit confused. Is Councillor Duffy suggesting that all Orange council decisions need to be reviewed by a member committee that includes himself? This suggestion or motion should be completely disregarded, in my opinion. In my opinion,
Thank you for the motion, Indy.
Thank you. I'd like to remind the councillor, Mr. Mayor, about
Councillor, I don't want to get in a sling match. Just continue on, Councillor Mileta.
he's entitled to make his motion. I'm entitled to make a response, but thank you.
Are you voting?
You're right over there, Councillor?
Yep. You're right. Thanks.
Thank you. In my opinion, the whole of council should be involved in all aspects of policies, whether in their primary or the review situation. In my opinion, this motion could also be seen as an attempt in watering down our democratic process, and I'm interested to know how this committee was selected in the first place.
That I don't.
I don't. We need. Councillor Taylor.
Be on this committee, Mr. Mayor. I didn't ask anyone. The first I read of it was in the business papers. So don't nail me.
No. Hold. Just take a seat. Councillor Duffy made it quite clear that he's just put some names there, and he did say quite clearly that anybody, any councillor, would like to be on it, quite welcome to be on it. Is that correct? So what you said?
Correct.
So that finishes that argument, Councillor. Great.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Look, I'm against this motion. We are already, as councillors, parties to the review of every strategic policy of this council. I think we had a workload report at the last meeting. I don't see the purpose of having another committee that would review policies that are already reviewed by the full council. Indeed, we have tonight 2 items, item 5.5, which is the asset management strategy, strategic policy 007, and item 5.6, we have the purchasing policy and the buy local purchasing policy, strategic policies 093 and 09. Now, Councillor Duffy has referred to wanting to review the priority weeds policy. That is due on the 1st of February 2020, so it will probably be one of the next strategic policies that in fact comes to us. Don't really believe it would be appropriate to add to the already heavy workload of his named councillors to be addressing separately strategic policies which are already in our remit, which already go on public exhibition when there's significant changes, and which really seems to be a circular suggestion. My other question is, he has suggested that this be all council policies. So the question would be, is there an intent that operational policies would be reviewed in this? And if so, I have concerns that that would also be outside the remit of council. Operational policies are under the CEO, and they're exciting in their range of looking at, the sun-safe policies and fatigue management, the aquatic centre lane usage. And I know no councillors want to get involved in being a party to determining aquatic centre lane usage. We know that that is a hot topic and one which causes angst, and I believe I'm quite happy to leave that to the CEO and the staff. I don't think that in terms of the Central West Library's policies for tutoring in the library, it's a good use of councillor time to be reviewing the policy in a separate policy committee. Indeed, we do have a number of strategic policies which I'm interested in reviewing. So if Councillor Duffy is suggesting we do need a separate committee, under what scope would they work? How would items be added to be reviewed? Would the community and other interested parties be able to put items to them, or is it simply the members that he's suggested who would be able to run it? Would it be open to the press? Would it be open to the community? And would other councillors be able to attend? Yes, other councillors are welcome to attend. But I think that this is a little bit of a waste of time. We've seen that the workload of councillors is significant. We know that some councillors have not been able to attend the meetings that they're already on. And I believe that it would be a little bit redundant. And at this point in the council term, I don't see the point of adding yet another layer of oversight to what seems to be a pretty good process so far, with a very structured review process for our strategic policies, and indeed, as was distributed to all councillors, of the operational policies, which is well in hand by our very capable staff.
Speakers? Not... I'll put the... Oh, sorry, Councillor
Taylor. Briefly, I don't see anything wrong with Councillor Duffy putting up a motion such as this. He's entitled to put what motions he likes up. The fact of the matter is, Councillor Duffy, I believe, is review, and there's nothing wrong with that at all, heaven forbid. Councillor Duffy, I believe, has found a few part of policies that probably err, and he would like to have those looked at. As I said earlier, I didn't know that I was included on this until I read it in the business paper. Councillor Duffy has explained it. It was probably because of experience and so forth with council. I've also worked with the government many years. So I've had a fair bit of experience as far as policy development is concerned. So that's probably why Councillor Duffy has included my name here. But I have no problem. I have no problem in some councillor replacing me if they so wish. But I don't think that castigating a councillor or having a go at a councillor for putting up such a policy which is aimed at that very fact that the public are part of it, the public do have an input into it, there is total transparency. I don't see a problem with that at all. Never have, never will.
Councillor Mileto, you're speaking for or against?
I'm just after clarification with regards. Councillor suggesting an amendment to the people involved, because otherwise the motion, if Councillor Taylor is saying that is he or isn't he part of this committee, and Councillor Duffy says, well, everybody's welcome, then that changes the whole motion completely as to that in front of us.
It's got to be reworded, the recommendation.
Councillor Duffy, are you willing to have that?
Part of the resolution, sorry, Mr. Chairman. Other members could.
He's quite happy to do that, aren't you, Councillor Hemming? Yeah. Yes. So, yep. Yep. Yeah. Councillor Newt.
Yeah, I'm speaking against the motion. Again, the issue of all council policies, I don't see that as appropriate for councillors to be reviewing operational policies. I don't think that's our role. The other thing in terms of transparency, as Councillor Taylor has raised, I can't see what the issue is in terms of transparency and when it comes to strategic policies. They all go out on public exhibition. Members of the public have the opportunity to comment. Generally, we get no comments, we get no submissions on them, but occasionally we do. So they're all out. It's very transparent. They're all out there in the public forum. They're reviewed, I think, every year, I think every 12 months. And councillors can have the opportunity to have an input to that process at the time, both when they go out, before they go out on public exhibition and when they come back from public exhibitions. So in terms of transparency, the transparency is already there, and I can't see there is an issue. I don't think there is an issue in terms of transparency.
Yeah, I seconded it only for discussion, but yeah, I can't go with operational policies because that's basically got nothing to do with us. That's the CEO running the council as it's supposed to. So I can't support this if it's going to be all council policies. Sorry. If it was just if operational policies were left out, I'd probably.
Yeah, I'll take that if you want.
Amendment.
I'll move an amendment.
Amendment.
Strategic.
The operational out. I will address it in my closing point. I think the other one's more important. Will I close the debate, Mr. Chairman?
Can I just clarify the motion is currently, Mr. Chair?
The council form a policy review committee to review strategic policies.
Strategic council policies.
With anyone able to join.
Yep.
You happy with that?
Yeah. I'll close the debate.
Councillor. Yeah, okay.
No, I'm quite happy to close the debate. As I mentioned before, there is a number of policies that do need reviewing. But in the same time, most of them probably don't even need adjusting or any comment being made about them. Or make a comment about the operational policies. Councillors have to do an adjudication on our only employee. We need to understand what those policies are. And if they're not being implemented, how can we make that comment about them? We need to understand that role. But that's a part of this debate. I think there are a number of issues within the strategic policies that we do need to address, and I've listed some of them there. It's something where we can sit down as a councillors, especially the experienced councillors, and say, why are these here? You just don't knock it out or make an adjustment for the basic reason that you want to. You have to understand why they're actually there in the first place. They're probably out of date. They've been there for a long time.
The motion is the council form a policy review committee to review strategic council policies. Now, all in favour? Against? Motion is carried. 4.3 is a notice of motion, dams for water storage.
Happy to move it, Mr. Chairman.
Move Councillor Duffy, second Councillor. Hold a second. Move Councillor Duffy, second Councillor Munro. This
motion is not about disregarding stormwater harvesting. It's not about disregarding bores and all those type of things there. We're basically 2 years into a drought. We're suffering now. It doesn't matter where you go, you see empty dams and what goes on. I want to talk about the future of the city. It's you need water storage. 2002 was when we were told that Suma Park Dam was going to suit Orange 4, and we've managed exceptionally well to go with stormwater harvesting and all these other things to make it happen. But in 50 years' time, it'll be a different ballgame. About 70 or 80, 100,000 people here. And I do know that the JO is working on Rollins, which is going to go around to about 21,000 megs from memory, and that's been going for years and years and years. I do want to take you back to the situation with Ben Shipley Dam down in Bathurst. It took 8 years to build, way back in such and such a time. So from the time that we say build a dam somewhere, it's going to take a long time to go through all the processes, the EISs and all those type of things there to build it, whether it be on the Macquarie River or where. I do take note of what Councillor Turner said years ago. Burrendong Dam was for irrigation, not recreation, and it stuck in my mind for a long time. If we've got, I congratulate our local member on his endeavours to get the road across to Mudgee. I think it's absolutely fantastic, and I praise him for that. But while we're there, why can't we put forward that we need a dam there, which probably could back up as far as the Ophir Crossing and some other areas, and you're looking at probably 400,000 megalitres. And we can there. The state controls will take care of the licences and all those type of things. It is about water storage. And let me tell you, if this drought keeps going the same as the Federation drought in 1896 to 1902, we're in big trouble. Simple as that. So, I just think it's important that we be supportive of more dams, irrespective of which government builds them, state or federal. And I'm saying that we should be helping out and looking where our main source of pipeline is, which is at the Macquarie River. And I know there's a lot of people out there that do support the concept of going and building a dam at Dixon's Long Point or in that vicinity.
Speakers, Councillor Maletta.
Thank you. There's no argument that there is a need for dams, and that's obviously been highlighted by some of the discussion which has been generated recently by various members at local and state level. In particular, I think it was last week, there was $1 million which was pledged by the state government with regards to the dam out there at Rollins Dam. Certainly increased the dam wall by 2.2 metres, I think. I guess the benefit of Lake Rollins Dam is that there is no hoops to jump through as far as feasibility studies, things like that are concerned. It's more or less ready to go, it's my understanding, just waiting on the future funding. We're also looking at Wangler Dam, increasing the wall there by 10 metres, which may take 5 to 7 years to occur. So I'm just curious to know how much of the council resources are going to be taken up by this motion. In relation to this proposal, in the siting of a new dam at Dixon's Point, where there appear to be far more appropriate sites which are currently being considered. The question I have for the councillor, Councillor Duffy, is where is his proposed dam going to be sited in relation to the new approved crossing, which the federal member has been discussing? Is it going to be above or below? And I guess either way, the residents of Dubbo are going to have something to say about that, because Burrendong Dam is located below, which is my understanding. So are we talking about putting a dam above it, which is going to capture the water which would normally go into Burrendong? So
can I just say on that, I think, don't forget, I don't think I can list a number of dams throughout this state that have other dams. We call them dams built before them or below them that are not the same size. They're like a weir. And I don't think this motion is asking our staff to go through a feasibility study and an EIS. This is actually asking the state and the federal governments to look at building more dams.
Yeah, but the motion also says around Dixon's Long Point. So I guess my question, Mr. Mayor, is...
They'll make that decision on us.
Thanks. With regard to what studies have been designated that area anyway to say that that's the most appropriate site to have a dam. And I'm just curious to know, and what information is out there to suggest that the location is suitable for damming the Macquarie River in the first place.
Councillor Nugent.
Thanks, Mr Mayor. Look, I speak against the motion on a number of grounds. Firstly, the dam. The idea of building a dam there is not going to solve the current drought. Obviously, it's going to take a number of years to happen. If we're still in drought in 8 years' time, we're going to be in much bigger trouble than this dam might promises this dam might solve. Dams don't water; they redistribute or reuse or redirect the water that is already in the catchment, that already is falling on the land, so they don't bring any new water to the system. I would have serious concerns about what a dam at that location, despite your comments, Mr Mayor. I'd have serious concerns about what a dam at that location would do to Lake Barrangong and more importantly further down the system in the Macquarie Marshes, which are already struggling to survive. So those reasons and the fact that there's already a whole lot of experts out there who are working really, really hard to look at, to find whatever possible solutions there are to the current water crisis that we have, and also long-term solutions. So we've talked about Lake Rowlands. We've talked about already tonight about the money that has been allocated to increase the stormwater harvesting system here in Orange. We've talked about the pipeline that's going to be, about the pipeline that's going to be built from Spring Creek Reservoir directly into to the water treatment plant. So there's a lot already happening. We're looking at the pipeline so that we can pump water up from the Lachlan River, I think, from Cowra and up into Suma Park Dam eventually. So there's already a lot going on. There's a lot of people out there working on these things. I just don't see that Orange coming in and saying, oh, we need to build more dams, we should build a dam here, is going to help the debate. A number of us, including Councillor Duffy and yourself, Mr Mayor, and Councillor Miletto, we were at the Local Government New South Wales conference just recently, and one of the first items that was dealt with in the business papers was water security, and there was a long, comprehensive motion from the Local Government New South Wales Board, which was passed, which talked about a comprehensive and integrated funded emergency plan to address the immediate water supply, as well as long-term 30 to 40-year water supply strategies for catchments. Now, that is a local government New South Wales policy now to lobby the government in relation to that. So, and if a dam at that point on the Macquarie River is the best solution, I'm sure they will identify that. But in the meantime, let's stay out of the way, let the experts get on with the job and address the current situation and also do planning for the long term.
And then Councillor Turner.
What I see here with this motion is the fact that we're encouraging the government to spend money on infrastructure projects. Maybe not, maybe it won't be there, they'll make that decision, but I think this is a good motion because what the motion's doing is encouraging what the government's already saying, and they're going to spend a lot of money. Better our nation grows as far as our economics as it is, we're getting into the black again. These infrastructure projects need to be built for jobs and maintain our way of life into the future. And I can't see a problem with this motion. That Councillor Duffy's only saying what the Prime Minister's already saying in regards to what he wants to do, and in regards to infrastructure projects and water retention. Yeah, you may not grow any more water. You may not have any more rain come down that was there. But how many floods have we got that just wasted? Need to retain water. We didn't have this little puddle we've got out here as a water storage. What would we do if we relied on the creek? Forward in time, get smarter as a race, and we put infrastructure in to accommodate our population.
Thanks, Mr Mayor. I've got problems with this motion in a couple of aspects. To build more dams for water storage for residential growth, I think we need to be broader than that. At the moment, we've got farmers struggling, irrigation farmers struggling, they can't grow the crops, etc., and we're going to have a huge increase in the cost of vegetables and fruit. The other one I've got problem with, a new dam on the Macquarie. Yes, I've been down to Long Point with delegations and ministers or whatever at the time, and I've supported a new dam somewhere in that area with a road on top. Solve both problems. But it would appear at the moment at the state government at least they've allocated and the federal government have allocated 20 million now for a bridge and upgrading of the road, etc. at somewhere near Long Point. So it would appear that one is off the agenda. What is on the agenda is the upgrade of Wyangla, and I would ask at the end of my little talk that what discussions have our council had with the state government as far as the Wyangla upgrade. Before state and federal governments over the last few months have started to panic that we've started to run out of water, state government, and it's the state government, and I'll criticise them, state government has allocated something like $32 million spent over the next 3 years on the feasibility study of perhaps raising the wall at Wyangla. About trying to put things off, delay things. But then they've started to panic now, and they've now promised us that they are going to start the upgrade of that wall within 12 months. See whether that happens or not. But at least they're starting to talk positively instead of just allowing committees to defer things as for forever if they wanted to. So we've all heard that we haven't built another major dam in Australia in the last 30 years. We've heard the Victorian government saying there's no sites left in Victoria for another dam. What a disastrous comment that one is. So I was down in Sydney over the weekend and reading an article down there on the disappearance of a valley, and that ended up being Burragarang Valley, or they built Warragamba. Sure, there was some environmental damage and there were some Aboriginal artefacts disappeared, etc., and there were some farms disappeared and some villages disappeared, but it had to be done for the future of Sydney's water. We've got to start thinking on why we can't build dams. We have to build more dams and store water, not just for guaranteeing residential areas, but guaranteeing water for our farmers. We talk about Great Britain or England leaving the EU and export opportunities for Australia. We've sent delegations over already in case it happens. We won't have the water to produce the food. So what's the point? We've acknowledged for I don't know how many generations that Australia as a continent is the driest continent in the world. But what do we do about it? Nothing. We haven't built a dam in 30 years. I don't know what's going to impel our change of thinking where we have to build more dams. We are going to create some environmental damage. We are going to endanger a green frog or a butterfly or whatever. But we have to do it for the future prosperity of this country. And Orange City Council has to play its very small part. And one question to either the CEO or whoever, what support have we given the state government in promoting the immediate upgrade of Wyangla Dam?
Through you, Mr Chair, I think it would Mayor might want to say something as well, but I think it would be fair to say that is one of the regional projects that we are talking in concert with the whole JO, including Cowra, particularly Mayor West down there. So there's about 10 or 12 key projects, and we all are making a point to support each other's projects because we're all in it together.
And the projects are looking at, if you like, the region, our regional long-term viability and sustainability with water, and that's looking at Wyangla, and that's totally supported. Push because 11 odd councils did support it, the government. Lake Rowlands, the pipeline work that's happening between here, Carcoar to across to Wyangla, the Lachlan River, and the other pipelines going in around thing. That's there is a water management plan. This region has been worked on for several years now, and it's come before this council 2 or 3 times in reports under Centroc, now under called the JOC, and particularly in the last 8 months. Yes, we've been down there actively in their ears in support of the Wyangla one and the Rowlands one, and what we're actually doing here, and that's reflected in the money that we've got. And the last lot of money was 5 million 7 days ago. And 2 parts of that is stormwater harvesting, as you know, stage 2, and a pipeline from Spring Creek Dam across to Suma, so you don't get such a heavy transmission loss in seepage and so forth. So that's what's actually happening in that space, and I can tell you the director and his staff flat chat on a whole range of water issues at the moment, but it's looking at region, just not here. I think, sorry, Chifley.
Oh, you're going to? No, you go if you want.
I haven't finished yet, Mr Mayor.
Can I comment? Just wanted to comment that we're working very closely with the state government on regional water strategies. So we've got broken them into catchment sizes. So we're represented on the upper Macquarie, but because of the pipeline link to Cowra, we're also represented on the Lachlan water strategy, regional water strategy meetings. So we've met a number of times in the last 2 months, and there'll be a draft report, certainly for the Upper Macquarie, finalised in January, and we meet again in February to consider that draft report. A lot of the initiatives out of that draft report are already being funded, and that's where some of those recent announcements have come through.
But just finishing, Mr Mayor, a lot of that is taking place now is to try and get us through this current drought.
No, it's
Let
not.
me finish. To redistribute the water we have, etc. The most important thing is what we're going to do about the next drought. We can't do much about, apart from redistributing the little bit of water that we've got more efficiently, etc. We can't do much about this current drought. But we must be more prepared for the next drought. Because if we'd had the positive discussions that we're starting to go through now, such as fast forwarding the upgrade of Wyangla, if all that had happened 5 or 10 years ago, we would be more ready for the drought that we're going through. But because we're procrastinating so much, calling for more reports, deferring for another committee, etc., we've all heard it all before. That is part of the reason we're going through this disastrous drought at the moment, so ill prepared. But we have to be ready for the next drought because it will occur. We don't know when, but it will occur. Let's hope we've learnt a lesson as far as country is concerned. Let's hope we've learnt a lesson and we are going to be more prepared for the next drought.
I'll speak next then. Look, support the motion, although I don't think it's particularly well worded, because I think it should be, we have to look at building more dams, both for production, which I agree with you on, and for residential growth. There's a lot of work happening in that space at the moment, the confusion of what dams were actually built for. Some dams, they say, were built for agricultural production, like the discussions at the moment on Ben Chifley are very, very interesting. How much of the water is for production, that's what it was built for, agriculture, and how much of it should be for domestic, if you like. So those discussions happen. I think they're very, very important discussions held at the moment. I think the second one is that the fact is that governments, including one that you were in, and you were our member for here, been jelly-beaned every single time that they've spoke about the reality of what's happening in our state and right across Australia, that we've got a growing population. We can't put up a sign that says, hey, stopping, no one else allowed to have kids or growing. And the reality is you have to store water times when you've got certain higher rainfall events and so forth, and use it judiciously. Huge problem we've had. No dams have been built in 30 odd years because state and federal governments have been gutless to actually make a decision on building dams. The one good thing I think has happened in this one is that I really do believe, it may not happen, but I took a lot of joy out of seeing that announcement being made. That's a substantial increase in Wyangla Dam. It's like a second dam, actually. The brand new dam up north in Dartmouth Dam, first announcement of a new dam in 30-something years. I mean, absolutely incredible. Listening this week when they're talking about, well, Warragamba Dam may not be sufficient, plus the other two small dams for the rapid rate of growth of Sydney. And they may have to be looking down the track. One good thing about that will push state politicians anyhow, because there's a lot of votes in Sydney. But I think what will come out of this is a realisation that we've got to get some of the minor politics out of it, and yahoo and screaming and saying that just got to stop it and we can't have any more storage. It's got to be done properly. Agree with that? And I think with processes that you have to go through now, even to put a pipeline across here to Carcoar and thinking into anything, environmental impact statements that you have to go through, or studies, I should say, whether it will give you, the yield that it'll give you, a whole range of hoops that you have to step through are quite mind-boggling. But I think it is great to see at least now there is serious debate about those dams and not thinking about the next election cycle, having to get some votes from one of the other parties or whatever and completely worrying about that. I think whoever's in government, you've got to try and knock at the door and get the money off them. One thing that I do feel secure about now, that I believe at least with Deputy Premier, he did get that money off those poles and wires and the Snowy Mountains, and that's going into regional infrastructure. There's a lot of money going into regional infrastructure, more than ever. I can remember in my time being on council, it's gone into regional infrastructure, continuing project. And I feel confident that we're going to see more going the way, because you're dead right. It's not only about this drought. What we've done here in Orange, if you think about the last 10 or 15 years, Councillor Taylor and I have been here, if nothing would have been done 15 years ago and right through to now, we'd be in a lot of trouble right now, wouldn't we? Without the pipeline, without the stormwater harvesting, and a whole range of other things we've done with community engagement and education and where we sit in a fantastic place because we have planned ahead. I think what's happening now is that a lot of other places have had to catch up with us, including some of our close neighbours, but I think governments have to catch up now and say, no, you're going to have to make some hard decisions here, but it is for the majority of people and it's for our country and our state as a whole. Can't keep listening to some of the crazy debates that go on about let's shut up shop, no more people. Look, in the last 3 or 4 weeks I've had several emails from people here, our current crisis, what we should be doing, we should not be allowing any more development in Orange. Should be putting a sign up, no more development in Orange, which really means no one have any more families, no one set up any business. I'm happy how things are now. Now, what a negative way to look at it all the way through. We don't have a right to do that. Councillor McCray.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I have concerns of where the word urgently is placed in this motion, that it actually undermines the intent. So the urgently is to ask. What we need is the urgent action. I also don't think that the focus on residential growth is appropriate. It should also be in food production. And what we've seen also recently in bushfire fighting is that there haven't been adequate water storages for appropriate bushfire fighting in some of the northern parts of the state. So I don't think it's a perfect motion. The intent is to get the state and federal governments to act and to urgently act on water security, effectively for human survival, in what I believe is related to climate change. I believe that the reliance on building a dam outside our local government area is a bit of a wish list, but it's good to see that we do have a network approach with our neighbours in the region. But I would also suggest that at the same time we need to take charge of our own destiny, which Orange has done well, and I do commend previous councils on their investment, their commitment, the infrastructure which has held us in good stead during these dry conditions and provided, I think, a good level of confidence for demand management with a very compliant community who understand why. But when it comes to the point of having water wars, where different councils are on different types of restrictions because they've got bigger dams with higher percentages than us, and when it comes down to who's able to afford to buy it, whether they're overseas entities who've bought up lots of water rights, or whether it's people who are still showering, catching the water in a bucket so they can keep their few plants alive, I do think we need to take destiny into our own hands and make sure that we look after our own backyards, put our own residents first, and not rely simply on a dam somewhere outside our local government area to deliver us water security for the future. I think that that's hoping and dreaming, and that's what scares me about this motion.
Mayor, can I move an amendment?
Yeah.
I'd like to move that the council urgently request the state and federal government to build more dams to ensure long-term residential growth and agricultural production in regional New South Wales, and forget about the bit about the Macquarie.
Withdraw my motion, Mr Chairman, go along with that.
Happy to withdraw his motion.
Happy to withdraw it and leave it as a motion because I think it's more important.
Second to Councillor Hammer.
Well, I don't have to talk against it then now, do I?
I'll move the motion be put. Against? Thank you very much. 4.4 is a note of motion, review of council community committees.
Move it, Mr Mayor.
Second to Councillor Nugent.
Look, there's a long background here, but the summary is we had a recent report on the community committee meeting attendance from councillors. There's a wide variety of attendance. Some councillors are on 10 committees, some are on 1. Attendance varies from 84% to 0%. And there's been 156 meetings. I think it's timely that we look at whether these committees are providing effective consultation, what outcomes they're achieving for the community, and how they contribute to council's strategic plan. Even earlier tonight, we heard about the use of Workplace Facebook in terms of collaboration and communication for a particular events-based community committee. And maybe it's time to move past the requirement that our community members, councillors and staff need to be in the same room at the same time to actually address some of the main issues for our community. So I think a review is timely. We've had recent forums, pop-ups, we use social media, there's been focus groups and workshops. The recent water forums and business forums have been well attended by councillors and community members as well as staff. Most importantly, we've had some councillors last meeting state that they do not have time to attend community committees and that they have other ways to engage with the community. It's appropriate that we gauge what the issues are with our community committees and how better we can engage for effective public consultation and public participation. Because as it's listed there, the United Nations Conference on Community Engagement, actually held in Brisbane, 2005, says that community engagement is critical to effective, transparent and accountable governance in the public, community and private sectors. So it's harking back to something Councillor Taylor spoke to earlier when referring to Councillor Duffy's motion on a policy review committee, is this is also about transparency and accountability for our community. Now, if we have these community committees, we hold them regularly, well, what impact do they actually have with decisions coming back to council, and how is that measured and evaluated? Or is it just a way to keep community members and councillors busy so that they're distracted from where the decisions are perhaps really being made. Look, in summary, I believe it's timely to review the existing community committees in terms of their value as a public consultation method and assess how they are actually contributing to effective, transparent and accountable governance for Orange City Council. I'm not saying get rid of them all, but it is time that we look at how they operate, what use they are, what outcomes they're achieving. Most importantly, ask our community members who are part of these committees how they feel that they are achieving the outcomes for which they originally signed up and how we could do it better with the resources that are allocated.
Councillor Milletta.
Thank you, Mr Mayor and Councillor McRae. I'm going to speak against the motion and foreshadow a motion. And being is that you are correct in there appears to be low attendance rate with regards to some councillors who are able or unable to attend or be part of some of these community committee meetings. And in the documentation it says if elected leaders do not attend these committee meetings, it could be asked where is a strong leadership commitment to implementing decisions made by these stakeholders. I guess where I'm coming from is that the next elections are coming up in September 2020. And I think to make a decision as important as this on how many committee meetings we can or cannot have, we've set the platform already as to what's there and what their expectations are. But I think it'd be unfair for the next incoming council not to have the same say as we've had as whether they want to be part of those committees or not. I think
can you push your amendment?
The amendment is that it be deferred, the whole motion be deferred until the next incoming council is selected in 2020.
Defer until next.
Right over there, Councillor.
Second, Councillor.
I'll support it.
Sorry. Amendment.
Still in shocking, Councillor Turner.
Can I ask a question, Mr Chair?
Yes.
So simply put, could we add to the current motion the amendment which would say for public participation and community consultation following the next council election?
No.
No. Well, that's what it's again.
It's an amendment. So yeah, we've got an amendment. We've got a motion. Yeah, we're right. We've got an amendment and a motion.
Right.
Yeah, as I was saying, I don't, at this point in time, with the way the council is going and these committees have been set and there's an expectation that they would continue, I think it would be unreasonable and there'd be a lack of confidence within our community if that were to occur, especially when you're taking into consideration the sacrifices that councillors and those people who are members of those committees make at the present time.
May I clarify? The motion doesn't say that any of the committees be discontinued. It is simply that there be a review of their effectiveness. And then I would assume that after that review, recommendations would come back for council to determine.
Hold on, we don't need to debate. I think we're both quite clear on what there's a motion and Councillor Nugent, wasn't he?
Yeah, I'll speak against the amendment and for the original motion. Look, on the same basis that Councillor McRae just said, a review doesn't any of those committees are going to be disbanded or gotten rid of. I'm a very strong supporter of those community committees. But I do recognise that they've been going now for many years, pretty much in the same format. And I certainly know that some councillors, some members of staff, some members of the community members of those committees do get frustrated with the processes and the way that they work. So in terms of having a review, I can't see the problem with having a review between now and September next year. That would then feed into the decision of the next council as to what they do in terms of council consultation. There are a much wider range of community consultation formats and processes now that council uses, and I think some of the online stuff that we do, some of the pop-up consultation sessions that we've done in this term of this council have been excellent, and some of these sort of limited term working groups that have formed, community communication groups that have formed have worked very well. I think sometimes where things run into problems is where a community committee just goes on and on and on for the sake of always being there. So I'm certainly not arguing to disband the community committees. In fact, I'm a strong supporter of them, but I don't think there's any harm in doing a review. I've certainly had considerable feedback from members of existing community committees that I'm a part of, saying that they are very strong supporters of the community, and it'd be good to get that input into this review. So don't think a review is preempting any final outcome, and I support the review as a process for feeding into the next council to make.
Just a point of clarification. Sorry, Councillor, first of all. We can recommend a deferral or recommend here a review, but we can't give an upcoming council coming in what they should do. Yeah. All we can do is recommend. We can't say this is it. Yeah.
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, exactly the point I was going to make too is you can have all the reviews, you can have all the looks at the committees you want, but I mean the new council will determine what committees it has, what structure it puts in place, and that's the rightful place it should be. It should be for the new council. Has a life of probably what's left, so any review, a complex review like this, should be undertaken by that new council. That council will determine what committees are in place, determine what committees need to be retained, what committees are be there for the future direction of council, whatever the council's priorities are, and that's the appropriate time to do it. That is how it has been done. I mean, we have over the years streamlined a lot of things, and I can remember, and you'd remember, when I first came on council, I had 18 committees, 18. I had other committees like the Access Committee, Crime Prevention Committee. They were really effective committees, a hell of a lot. I was chair of those for 6 years. But there's no way, there's one thing I've learned over all my experience, there's no way of making a community meeting. But I think the most important point is what you said, Mr. Mayor, is council that will be elected in 10.1 that needs to determine its priorities and then determine committees in place. And community participation has dropped off immensely. We had literally hundreds of members. Now, really, you probably dozens of. So there has been that drift off, whether that's something that's just part and parcel of society now, or whether it's reflective of our committee structure, I don't know. But the fact of the matter is I support that there be a review, but new council, newly elected council.
Look, I think we've got an amendment, and the amendment is the recommendation of it. Council, and we've got the motion that.
May I close the debate, Mr. Mayor?
No, Mr. Chairman, I want to speak.
Yeah, I will let you close the debate.
Come on.
Sit down, Councillor Duffy.
Come on.
One of my main concerns
We'll lose it.
has just been stated that we should keep the status quo because that's the way it's always been done. I have a concern with that. I also have concerns about where Councillor Taylor has his evidence that the number of members of community committees have dropped. Now, that is why we need this review, because we don't have that information available as an evidence base to make an informed decision or to indeed provide that information to an incoming council. So the idea of the review is to gather information, get the details from the community members, the councillors, who may indeed love their community committee meetings and think they're really exciting and interesting. not really boring. And I think that if we can gather that evidence and that information from the current community committees, then we'll be able to measure how effective they are at the moment. And as stated in this background, following the review, recommendations can be made regarding the development of a community committee framework post-2020 local government elections. Nothing may change. It may stay exactly the same. There may be some tweaks, or there may be a complete overhaul. But at the moment, if we have no review, or indeed we defer it until they're all dissolved and there's a completely new council, it will be very difficult to gather the information to be able to make an informed decision. Those community members disappear. They've done 3 years on their committee. They may not want to answer questions about what they felt they achieved or how relevant it was. Now, I've only been on council for 2.5 years. I've been heavily involved in a number of community committees, and I do enjoy them and I do turn up regularly. If we rely on past history all the time, because that's the way it's always been done, and someone being a chair of a committee a number of years ago provides all of the evidence of why we shouldn't change something in the future, I have concerns about that being informed decision making for good public participation and community consultation with our community. All I'm asking is that we review the current setup so we can make sure it's the right way forward in the future. And if it's not, we can apply common sense to ensure that we've got a structure that's fit for the future.
Councillor McKay. I will put the amendment up first. All in favour? Please. Against? Amendment becomes a motion. All in favour? Hands again, please. Against? .5 is the notice of motion. O for car parking fees for Christmas 2019. Move, Councillor McRae. Seconded.
Question: Don't we automatically do this?
I can answer that.
Every year?
We have been, but I think we need a motion to do it.
So we're just doing it as a procedural thing for the motion, because I know that we've always
been doing it come year. I think we need to do it, yeah.
Just a quick comment, Mr Mayor. We certainly need to enforce. Council could also take the opportunity to encourage. What I'm getting at, we need to enforce the fact that it only applies to the O for car park. I think we need to put the address, given that Mr Smith didn't even know where the O for car park was tonight. Yeah. We need to put the address of the O for car park and enforce it. All the other time limits in the other shopping centre, city centre, council car parks still apply. Because given that our shopping population is double the population of the Orange City itself, a lot of people come from out of town and we don't want to create any ill feeling with them.
Yep.
Oh, thank you, Mr Mayor. Thank you very much for noticing me standing there. I want to support the motion, and because we've done it every time. I do have some concerns about the parking officers, but my question goes back to my question goes back to a resolution that you put up a few years back. It's never, to me, from my gather, was never ever addressed, and that was opening up the netball
Alder Street
netball courts. That was as far as I was concerned. I can address that. And why we didn't get it addressed at all. I could be wrong. Sometimes I'm not. I could be technically wrong, but I don't know. But I think it's something well worth looking at, because we shouldn't just pick on one little section. Let's make it open for everyone.
Who would you like to respond to?
Could address that. Yes, you're right. That came to council, was put on exhibition as a concept. Then the Future City project came in, and I think we informed council that we would then wrap that into the Future City project. But you are right.
So if I come up with a motion at the next council meeting that we look at using Alder Street netball courts for temporary parking just during business hours, be quite appropriate.
I can't see what happened.
I'd second that.
What?
I'll foreshadow that. All right. You know what the motion is, over car parking fees for today. All in favour? Against? Unanimous. Thank you. Now, general reports. First of all, we have 5.1. It's an update on outstanding resolutions including questions taken on notice and notices of motion.
Move the recommendation.
Councillor Turner,
Seconder.
seconder. Councillor Munner, all in favour? Aye, hands up, thanks. 5.2 is the Naylor Pavilion, grant application, kiosk and amenities facilities.
Move, Mr Mayor.
Just a question. I fully support this 110%. As I said earlier tonight, I don't know why the previous council, we didn't have these facilities included in the pavilion when it was built. But I have to ask, 690,000 toilets and kitchen, effectively. I understand it's a kiosk, but a lot of money.
Look, if I Holder, would you like to answer? Well, you after me. I'm next. Look, I support it totally, and I have for a long, long time, and I've seen that plan behind it. But I just think sometimes when we look at like trying to get a grant or getting the money, that's the first thing I thought. Well, God, blimey! This is the shed's made of tin. The bits that are going to attach to it are going to be made of tin.
Couldn't we put it internally?
Oh, well, that's over to take a lot of spoil space. But I mean, even if it was tin, it's just cutting. Well, it's not just cutting. There's more to it involved than that. But if I looked at those toilets and I look at that kiosk, if I was trying to get a grant and someone had that running past me, the first thing I'd ask, how come it's going to cost that much money, to be quite frank. But I completely support the aim of what saying here. I've got no doubt in the wide world about that. Councillor Duffy was next, then you, Councillor.
As I said, a bit earlier, Councillor Romano indicated that our local member was there. And Councillor Turner might remember this, that each year they get given funds to spend in their electorate. I think this year it's 300,000 that they're allowed to put. I have two concerns here. One is that the money is out there saying what we're prepared to spend. From what I can see of that, I always go back to what the situation the people of Mullion Creek did. They built a toilet block for about $28,000 when it cost council $135 out at Cumnock, same one, and they did a better job themselves. Because we've got that figure out there now, I'm saying we probably should withdraw all the dollar sign figures and give it to the Showground Society to build the toilet block, because they'll probably do it a hell of a lot cheaper. But I do have a problem with the amount being out there now, because you know very well if we put it out to tender, you know what it's going to come in at. We saw what happened at the Robertson Park toilets. We do have an issue with that. But Mr. Donato has indicated to us that he's going to use some of those funds, encourage the Show Society to put in for that money to go towards that project of toilet and a kiosk there, and I think it's extremely important. Point.
I was sort of going to say along the same lines, in regards to nominated here is what we think it'll cost. I think maybe if we price on it, we should maybe put get a quantity certified. That's what they think it may have happened already. But I can't see that sort of money in it, definitely. But depends on the size of the toilets and showers and whatever you're going to put there. If you've got 8 showers and toilets, well then that's probably okay. Then you've got to think about, of course, the first at least 5 foot. 100 or so would have to be impervious, would have to be brick inside or tile or whatever for health regulations. So there are a lot of things to think about in regards to the actual building of it. So look, I agree with it. I think we should go forward, wait, see what the quotes come back, and get it done as quick as possible. The show must go on, and the showground must get better every year. We've got to invest in it. Told the Show Society over the years that we'll keep investing in it. It's not one of those things we need to do. I've been told by a lot of the horse eventing people there's many events that would go there, as the Mayor intimated earlier. that the place is underutilised. Well, put toilets there and put a kiosk there, and it will be utilised. There's also events and things there that go there that can't because of this.
I might ask Councillor Victor Maunder just for some background. He's obviously would have got some estimates.
You can ask where that figure came from. That's
So the process for this, councillors, through you, Mr. Chair, was that we developed a design in conjunction with the requirements as identified by the Orange Show Society. So Peter in the audience tonight, and Peter's. There were some technicalities around the actual location of and as to the number of toilets required for the size of that building. They're actually inside the building, the number of toilets is much larger than what they are with the current design. Sits the toilets off the building, don't have to comply with.
There's a compliance as far as the number of toilets. It has no toilets at the moment. Constructed it, it has no toilets. Compliance of the number now come into play when you want to put toilets in.
And council approved the DA. It took into account the toilets across the whole facility, so it's still compliant. However, if you construct toilets within inside the facility, toilets required will be increased, and you will reduce the space and operational capacity of the. So you can do it. It'll cost more money.
What I'm saying is the compliance now comes into play, and
don't write the planning laws, councillor. That's just the compliance.
Relevant to you've got some estimates on that.
Yeah, and so then we took the design to a quantity surveyor, and the quantity surveyor provided us with an estimate of the costings. He also included in that price have included some estimates on architectural fees, structural design, hydraulic design, mechanical design, engineering, fire, etc. All those things together add up to around that number. That number includes all those fees, council's fees, project management fees, Section 64. So we've tried to be conservative in the number. Go to tender, it would be a competitive process. The tenderers wouldn't be aware of what each other would be tendering, so pretty comfortable with that. The other difficulty with this particular one is we have to give a number to council for them to consider for what they bring into a future budget. So that's why those numbers are in there.
Yeah, could I just make one? That you could build a substantial, very very high quality 4-bedroom home for that.
Yeah,
With land.
I am, councillor.
I think that answers the we've got the question answered. That we're quantitative surveyors given us the estimates on this. I think the issue that we're looking at is the recommendation here that.
One clarification, Mr. Mayor.
What's the clarification?
Clarification is: can we, as a council, ask the community groups such as a Rotary or the Show Society or they to put in a DA or a quote to do the job? I can't see why not. I know that the Manilda grandstand.
Ask the question. You've answered your own question. Let's see how
anyone
opportunity.
Through Mr. Chair, simply put, anyone can put a quote in if they're qualified and they've got the right certification, registrations, and building licences, all those sort of things. You could ask them. You could ask Rotary. I'm sure if Rotary go to Samoa, then there might be different requirements. Difficulty.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. Okay, I'll put the recommendation. All in favour? Against? Thank you. 5.3 is a day on the green.
Move.
Move Councillor Munro, second Councillor Privatera. Councillor.
Just a couple of questions. Is this the 60,000 we spoke about before? It's the 60,000. So it's not going to infrastructure?
No.
That's all right. That was one of my concerns. My other concern is Cabon putting money into this? Donations. I know they put $50,000 towards the Balloon Festival at Canowindra. So what are they putting into this? Have they got all the approvals in place?
Through you, Mr. Mayor. So just to clarify, It is for site establishment. That's part of what the funding is for. And in relation to Gabon, they've got a donation on exhibition at the moment, which is 20 grand for year one, 20,000 for year one, 5,000 for year two, and 5,000 for three, on the same principle as our.
Mayor, well, I support this 100%. I've just got I'm a bit concerned about on the night, which I'll be bringing up with the police in the Crime Community Safety Committee meeting next Monday, is when it's finished. I know I went out to that Grapes on the Mirth and they only had 700 people come into town. We're talking about busing 10,000 people into the town, arriving at 11:30. I don't know, they'll probably have most of them will have a skinful. I've just got concerns about the CBD and how we're going to, without any trouble, have people being able to be, dispersed. That's the word I'm looking for, dispersed out of the CBD. I will be bringing up with the police. I'm sure they've got their, I'm sure all that management, but I've just got some concerns about it.
That's a wonderful problem. Pubs will be all rocking until 3 o'clock if they're lucky. But look,
They won't be able to get in because I'll be intoxicated.
maybe they won't. Look, they won't. A lot of people go out there for a good time. They don't go out there to get on drugs and
I didn't.
Yeah,
Point of order.
Yeah.
I didn't say they were going to be on drugs.
going to get intoxicated. I'm sure it's going to be controlled, and there's so many people there. They're not going to come back in here and make havoc. But the thing is, isn't it a wonderful problem that we've got that much interest in this? Isn't it a fantastic investment on our doorstep? Going to fill our town with economic outcome for a small amount of money.
Look, I think I'll put the recommendation there. All in favour? Against? Thank you. 5.4 is a request for financial assistance, business acting for profit application. Campbell. Someone move that?
The recommendation.
Moved Councillor Nugent, seconded Councillor Munro. Councillor Maletta.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I support the recommendation. The only support people bringing this amount of people to Orange. The only concern I had was that business was acting for profit. That was the only question I had. But certainly I do support the initiative, the Creative Business Boot Camp, in bringing this amount of people to Orange. It's just the concern I had was that it was a for-profit business.
For profit. Yep. All the supporting information.
Got the supporting info down the bottom of the page of what they said. I think I'll put the recommendation. All in favour? Against? Thank you. 5.5 is a strategic policy review. Asset move Councillor Hamling, seconded Councillor McRae.
Support us this time.
All in favour? Hands up, please. 5.6 is against, I should say no one. 5.6, strategic policy review, purchasing and buy local. Move Councillor McRae, second Councillor Nugent. All in favour?
To comment, this is, I think, very interesting for our local services and goods businesses to have a look at and to provide recommendations while it's on exhibition. If they want more of a good deal for the local businesses, this is the chance. I would encourage anybody who's interested in providing goods and services to council to look at it in detail, consider how it might impact on their opportunities to serve council, because here it is, right in front of them. And it's time for the public to tell us what they think.
Councillor Maletta.
Thank you, Mr Mayor, and I certainly support what the councillor is saying. I'm just wondering whether there's an opportunity for council to disseminate this information to the business chamber and other relevant organisations so they're aware of it also. They can give it to their members.
I think possibly could try and run something in the various media outlets. I think it's worthwhile.
Excellent,
Yeah.
thank you.
Everyone happy with that? We look at it as part of putting out through the media. Yeah. Thank you. All in favour? I said against? Right. Now, look, I have to ask your permission to continue on. So that other resolution after 10 o'clock? Well, I'm saying it, 10:30. Well, Councillor Munro, real good at reading the clock earlier, so am I. It's close to 10:30. Okay. All willing to go to finish this last bit off? Yeah, thanks. The Chief Executive Officer will advise the Council if any written submissions have been received relating to any item advertised for consideration by a closed meeting of Orange City Council. I extend an invitation to any member of the public present at the meeting to make a representation to Council as to whether the meeting should be closed for a particular item. In accordance with the Local Government Act 1993 and the Local Government General Regulation of 2005, in the opinion of the Chief Executive Officer, the following business is of a kind as referred to in Section 10A in brackets 2 of the Act and should be dealt with in a confidential session of Council, meeting closed to the press and to the public. The items to be considered in closed: 6.1, entering into contracts for sewer rehabilitation, pipe relining services. 6.2, tender for construction of the Southern Feeder Road, Stage 3. 6.3, tenders for the construction of roundabout at Northern Distributor Road and William Maker Drive intersection. And 6.4, tender for AHU 3 replacement at the gallery. Agenda item.
No such written submissions have been received.
The reasons for the confidentiality under the provisions of Section 10A2, bracket C, information that would, if disclosed, confer a commercial advantage on a person with whom the Council is conduct business. Check that the live streaming is off and